So my talk today is called Dark MAGA, Elon Musk and Bible Prophecy, Tracking the Great Reset, Part 3. And I want to show what my first presentation was. This is what I did here a few years ago, Understanding the Great Reset, a biblical analysis going forward. And the key word I want to focus on is the word understanding. People say, why do you give talks on this stuff? What does it matter? Well, what the scripture says is people without understanding are ruined. And from Psalm 119, give me understanding that I might observe your law and keep it with all my heart. Psalm 119, 104, from your precepts I get understanding. Therefore, I hate every false way. One of the things I'm doing today is I'm exposing a false way. That's what I'm doing. And your understanding of that is going to help you be able to navigate this and hate that false way and be aware of it, and that we might observe God's law. My second presentation here, I think last year, was this one, The Coming Multiple Complex Global Shocks, How to Understand Them and Why They Matter. So those are the two talks I've done here in the past, but so that's why this is called Part 3. Some of the Part 1 and 2 information I have out at the little table out there. You can get some of those if you want as you go. I have an executive summary out there. Some of you have gotten some handouts. I do want to point out this one real quick. It's a technocracy brochure. This comes from Patrick Wood from technocracy.news. I did not print this, I just purchased these, but inside this, there is a little Bible tract that I created to help explain how a person can share the gospel with this information. So that's what is out there. I hope you will get one of those before you leave if you haven't got one already. Okay, so I also have another talk. Actually, the what should we do part, I plan to get to in the second half of the time today, because the biggest question I get at the end of my talks is, well, what do we do about it? And so I'm addressing that. What we're going to do about it, I have a whole presentation on that. Starting out with some scripture. Oh, and I'm going to move quickly. There's a lot of content. I do apologize if it's too fast for you, just to stick with it. If I don't share it quickly enough, I won't get through the content, and I got to give enough content for you to understand what I'm saying. So just stick with it. It is being recorded, if I'm not mistaken, so likelihood we'll be able to look back at it if you want to review it later. Exodus 23:2, you shall not follow a multitude in doing evil. Just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. And some quick disclaimers. I do not claim to have all this figured out. What I learned and have observed, I will try to explain. In the end, you decide. And of course, the relevant scriptures, you should recognize these texts. So I'm not going to take the time to go through each one, but you decide. All right, I'm just going to tell you and try to teach you. And what I'm teaching you about is this. We're here to examine dark MAGA in light of scripture and in the context of the Great Reset. And a disclaimer, another disclaimer, this is not about Trump. For this presentation, tech or technology is key, not Trump. So if you get to a point where you're perhaps wondering what I think about Trump, remember, this is not about Trump. It's about technology and technocracy, which you'll learn about as we go. All right. Now, Trump is clearly involved. He's at the center of this. So again, you're going to decide as you hear the presentation. All right. So let's do some. So the first part of this is review. This is going to be for the people who have been to my talks before. This is review. For those who are new, this is some groundwork that needs to be laid. And I want to start with Matthew 13:23. Matthew 13 in the parable of the tares and the wheat. You're very familiar with this. I'm going to be very brief with these. The scriptures are in front of you. You know that the kingdom of heaven, Jesus said, was to be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went away. The master later said, allow both to grow together until the harvest. And then he says to the reapers in the end that they were to gather up the tares, bind them, but the wheat put to it in his barn. The point is this. My teaching point is this. Everything is always mixed. Good movements always experience the corrupting influence of the enemy. And God sorts it out in the end, all right? But we should expect good movements to be corrupted, or the corrupting force will come in, and that's just the way it works. Okay, so I'm going to define the Great Reset very briefly, and I've just given you a definition. This is from the first presentation I did here. There it is, the Great Reset. I call it, it's really the globalist push to final transformation into their new world order. Who are they? Well, it's the globalists, it's the United Nations, it's the people that you'll be seeing in the presentation that I give. But when I say final transformation, it's really Satan's version of Revelation 21, this new world order. God has said in the book of Revelation that he's going to create a new heavens and a new earth. Well, this is just what Satan is simply mimicking that, if you will, in a corrupted way, trying to make his own new world. And so this is the concept of this new world order. And this word, this phrase can be traced back all the way to the early part of last century. It was heavily used by Alice Bailey in the 1920s and 30s, which I'll cover that as we go along. But really, this final transformation needs a global narrative. It needs a story. It needs a whole language, if you will, for unification. Unification is a key concept. And so this is it. I'm shortening it. I'm going to teach you this. Peace and security of Earth, and peace and security of Earth's unified humanity. This is the people planet narrative. This is all about the planet. This is your global warming agenda. This is all about unified humanity, the people agenda. And so it's really the people planet agenda. Now, there's a summary word that combines this. It's called sustainability. And ultimately, it's the peak of religious humanism, where man is the sustainer, not God. And this is what this system wants. Now, I want you to also understand that the Great Reset is really just an advertising slogan. And it's talked about in different ways. You hear the Decade of Action, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Fourth Turning, the New World Order, Pax Universalis, Build Back Better, Agenda 2030. There's others. All right. These are all things that essentially are describing the same thing. That is the Great Reset. All advertising slogans. And I submit bringing in the Revelation 13 scenario. You are very familiar with Revelation 13 with the mark of the beast. I'm not going to go to the text. The point is that I'm bringing out is that if you don't have this mark, you can't buy or sell. So I call that economic exclusion. People are forced out of the economy because they do not buy into the global narrative at the time. And that's where this is pushing. Daniel 7:23 is a key text. The fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms. And the key point here is it will devour the whole earth, tread it down, and crush it. Now, this is a prophecy yet future. We should be expecting that fourth kingdom. When I say that, we should be expecting it. What I'm saying is that the world system is building toward that. We're simply in part of that in time. Now, that's the definition, the vision. Klaus Schwab's book. Klaus Schwab, the former head of the World Economic Forum, he wrote the book COVID-19 and the Great Reset, The Great Reset. Notice the COVID-19 was very connected to that. And what he really wanted and was pointing out is that the COVID-19 put us in a circumstance to deal with changes that will be needed to create a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable world. Notice that word sustainable, so I had to give that brief definition of the Great Reset earlier. Sustainability, people planet narrative. And this word inclusive is a Marxist phrase. We'll talk about that more as we go along. So the Great Reset, that is the vision there. There are 8 predictions the World Economic Forum had for 2030, and many of you have seen this video. This is from a video, but I'm not going to show the video because of time. 8 predictions for the world in 2030, which is not far away, a little less than 5 years away. Here's the World Economic Forum. So the prediction number 1, that you'll own nothing and be happy. So how many remember that? Anyone hands up there? Okay. So I want to say that, and I simply want you to make no mistake, that they are attempting to execute this plan to accomplish their goal. And to own nothing and be happy, the key that they're pushing for is that you'll own nothing. The be happy part, of course, is just frosting for them. It's a deception, obviously. But they really want you to own nothing, and they want me to own nothing. That's what they're pushing for. And so I'm just showing you how and as an example of how this system is moving. The housing market is pushing toward here. The metrics have changed. It is now more profitable to rent a house to you than to sell it to you in the first place. Affordability and availability have driven home buyers out of the market, forcing them to rent. The trend seems irreversible, regardless of economic conditions. The current trajectory suggests the transformation will be complete by 2030. Notice the word transformation and notice the date 2030. This is the 2030 agenda that they want to transform everyone into this new world where no one owns anything. I'm simply trying to tell you, you might think, they'll never do it. That's not my point. My point is that they're trying to do it, and the things that are happening out there are pushing to that goal. That is their goal. Now, quickly, the George Bush goal here, sorry, that was their vision. The goal is a Pax Universalis. This is a universal peace. Listen to George Bush. This is a review from last year. This is 1991, by the way.
Where institutions of freedom have lain dormant, the United Nations can offer them new life. These institutions play a crucial role in our quest for a new world order. You may wonder about America's role in the new world that I've described. Let me assure you, the United States has no intention of striving for a Pax Americana. However, we will remain engaged. We will not retreat and pull back into isolationism. We will offer friendship and leadership. And in short, we seek a Pax Universalis, built upon shared responsibilities and aspirations.
That's a total UN message, right? Pax Universalis. He doesn't want Pax America. He doesn't want American peace the way it's been since World War II. He wants a universal peace. That's a globalist utopian goal, part of the new world order, which he himself mentioned. Okay, with that, the plan. Here's how they're going to make this happen. The UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And the phrase that I want you to focus on is delivering the SDGs. And you'll hear that in the Decade of Action. But before I get to this, I want you to understand that the SDGs are delivered with a global population under 1 billion. Let's listen to, let's see here. Let's listen to Patrick Moore. Now, Patrick Moore is the co-founder of Greenpeace, which you are familiar with as a radical environmental group, which he quit back in the 1990s because he saw it was taken over by the communists. So listen to what his position is if we go to a net zero carbon emissions.
If we actually achieve net zero, at least 50% of the population would die of hunger and disease. And no doubt about it, because just...
Okay, so at least 50% of the population is going to die in hunger and disease if we go to a net zero carbon emissions. That's his position. And we look at E. Calvin Beisner also being interviewed by Alex Newman. E. Calvin Beisner is the head of the Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation, and he's a Christian guy. Listen to his response to the question of what's the end game? What are they really after? He's responding to that question by Alex Newman.
By eliminating national sovereignty, substituting global government, eliminating fossil fuels, which are absolutely indispensable to lifting and keeping whole societies out of poverty. And poverty, of course, is the world's greatest killer. If we were to eliminate all fossil fuels right now, roughly 4 billion people who depend entirely on them for food would die post-haste. And within a very short time, another 2 billion people would, because of the lack of heat, air conditioning, concrete, plastics, electricity, everything else. I don't see any way to escape the notion that those who are the most in the know and the most committed to this have exactly that depopulating agenda in mind.
Okay, so when they say in this next video to deliver the goals, I want you to understand that's a significant depopulation agenda that is afoot. This is from the Deputy Secretary General of the UN some years ago.
We have 10 years left to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. 10 years to end extreme poverty, tackle inequalities, empower women and girls, and fight climate change. That is why the United Nations is launching a decade of action to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. We call on everyone everywhere to be part of this effort. Governments, business, communities and individuals, young and old, people from all walks of life, the great diversity that is our human family. We all know what it takes to achieve the SDGs by 2030. So together, we can keep the ambition and the promise of leaving no one behind. Join us in securing our common future. Let's act together for people and for planet for all generations to come.
For people and for planet, delivering the SDGs. All right. So what is, so the Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 of them, are the central UN platform for Agenda 2030. And I'm going to give you that briefly here. Transforming, there's that key word. This is a great reset word. Our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Remember that sustainable word that I told you at the very beginning. This sustainable development is the central UN platform. This is from this particular link, which is a United Nations link of the 2030 Agenda. The process of arriving at the 2030 Agenda with broad participation and of major groups and other civil society stakeholders. Keyword stakeholders. We're going to be talking about stakeholder capitalism in a little while, but notice this from the same webpage. This is the people planet narrative. It's very well formulated. So when I say the people planet narrative, I'm not making it up. This is the narrative that they push forward. And I'm going to show how that connects to Karl Marx in a little while. Let's look at Google, though, and its connection. And because remember, this presentation is about technology and really technocracy, but technology is part of that, of course. There's the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Google has been involved with the UN SDGs. Google set an ambitious new goal to operate on a carbon-free energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, all by what? 2030. All right. So this is part of Google's broader commitment to sustainability. So Google is, if you understand what the SDGs are and what the Great Reset is and what sustainability is, which I've tried to show briefly, Google is 100% behind it. All right. They are pushing this agenda. And of course, Google is the major search engine that most people use. Now, this is a little bit of speculation on my part, but if you look at the logos for the Sustainable Development Goals, you can see the icon here with the colors, the circle. There it is. Very similar to Google's and Chrome's icon, coloration, and whatnot. I believe that there's a connection there. I can't prove that, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of that, but it's just an interesting point. Notice, of course, you got the 666 lined up in the Chrome icon as well. Now, with that said, this is significantly bad. Now, let's quickly talk about Patrick Wood. He runs the website technocracy.news. He's the guy that printed these brochures out that I was talking about earlier. You can look at that later. But here's what he says. Technocracy is making its move. Now, I'll define technocracy shortly, but that is making the Great Reset happen. This is my comments here. I'm just kind of helping you see. Now, let's see who Patrick Wood is. Some of you may remember and know Curtis Bowers from Agenda, Grinding America Down. How many of her are aware of Curtis Bowers? Anyone? Okay. So Patrick Wood has been a longtime family friend of the Bowers family, and you can see Curtis interviewing Patrick on this particular link, Technocracy Rising with Patrick Wood. So I say that simply to point out that these are things, when I talk about Patrick Wood, that's who he is. And there's some connection with people here because of the connection with Curtis Bowers. And Patrick Wood was a friend of Curtis's father. And he's a Christian, and so he's coming from that perspective. All right, think about this now. Regime change, mid-1940s, East Berlin, out with the Nazis and in with the who? Who came in? It was the Soviets, right? Russians, the communists. So just as this has occurred, so too replacing the democratic rhino-controlled U.S. government with technocracy is going to be the same. And I say, no, actually, it'll be much worse. So I'm saying, look, this replacement of the Democrats, the rhino, the Republican in name only, I got an H in there, I shouldn't have it in there, sorry about that, with technocracy, which seems to be happening with MAGA, which is what I'm going to get to. I'm saying it's going to be much worse. So what we had with Biden, or what we would have had with Kamala Harris, what's coming is going to be much worse, if you can imagine that. That's what I'm suggesting with this statement. Isaiah 59:5, this is an idea. This idea is captured here from that which is crushed, the former, think of the Biden regime, you want to call it that, whatever, a snake, the technocracy breaks forth. So when one bad thing is crushed, something perhaps even worse comes out. So this is a concept that is found in the scripture. Now let's quickly talk about the Great Reset and the Christian, nothing is going to stop Daniel 7:23 from occurring. All right, again, this is a prophecy. All right, the whole earth's going to be devoured, tread down, and crushed by this fourth beast, which will be a fourth kingdom. Of course, kingdoms are led by a king. We're not going to stop that. We're not going to stop Revelation 13 from occurring. And so the biggest thing I get from people is to throw up the hands and say, well, what can we do? And they feel discouraged and defeated, and so they end up with this, what I call fatalistic complacency. I'm pointing out to you that fatalistic complacency is notably absent as a biblical principle regarding the rise of the fourth beast. There isn't any place in the scripture for the Christian to be complacent or fatalistic. It's just not there. So there are things for us, though. We have to act as a restraining force against evil. We are to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. We're to resist in the evil day. We're to expose the darkness. We're to live in freedom. We're to preach the gospel. All right? So this is important for us to know, that when I give this talk or you feel discouraged about it, discouragement is a natural human response, but it's not where we should stay. This is the place we should be. Now, with that said, let me quickly talk as quickly as I can about the schemes of the devil. I want to bring that up. And you guys are familiar with 2 Corinthians 2:11. This is the context of this is forgiveness. It says, in order that no advantage be taken of us by Satan, for we are not ignorant of his schemes. That word schemes there is neoma, a contrivance of the mind. Satan has contrived things in his mind, and we should not be ignorant of them, because if we are, what happens? Satan takes advantage, correct? So this is the point part of the point of my message, is to help us be aware of these schemes. But I want to go deeper into the schemes of the devil, and I submit to you that the devil has an evil plan. Going back to Genesis 3, he was tempting Eve. You will surely not die, for God knows in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. This was a temptation. The temptation was that she would be like God. All right. Now that's important, because when you look at Isaiah 14, speaking of directly in context, this is written to the king of Tyre, if I'm not mistaken, and you'll find other texts in Ezekiel referring to the king of Babylon. But this is generally understood as Satan, referring to Satan himself and his fall, how you have fallen, all right, from heaven. So the king of Tyre didn't fall from heaven. This is why the commentators would say this is referring to Satan. O star of the morning, son of the dawn, you've been cut down to the earth, you have weakened the nations. But you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mountain of the assembly in the recesses of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. This is Satan's personal agenda. He wants to be like the Most High. He wants to replace God and be God himself. Now, that being said, we look at the history when Jesus was in the garden, he was being delivered over. He said, as he was there, while those came to take him, while I was with you daily in the temple, you did not lay hands on me, but this hour and the power of darkness are yours. By God's sovereignty, he had given that hour to Satan to do what he will. Remember, if Christ had not gone to the cross, we wouldn't have the opportunity for salvation. This had to happen. And so this is the case. Likewise, we look to the future. When Paul is writing to the Thessalonians, he talks about the secret work of lawlessness was already at work in Paul's day, 2,000 years ago. But then he says, then that lawless one will be revealed. That is the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders, and with all deception and wickedness. The teaching point I'm getting at is another hour and power of darkness is coming, in which Satan will appear to dominate the world. And that is by God's sovereign will. My point is, his plan includes this. This is not something that's taking God by surprise. It's what's prophesied. That being said, let's quickly look at the title of this is In God's Image, Why Satan Needs Man to Carry Out His Evil Plan. So that is his evil plan. I'm going to brief through this as fast as I can. This itself is a whole talk I could give. I think there's a lot here, but I'm not going to be too long with it because of the time constraints that we'll have today. The distinctive feature of man alone is he is made in God's image. Angels are not God's image. Animals are not made in God's image. Man is made in God's image. These are some attributes of God, as you can see. Animals have some of these things. Angels have really almost all of them, but the key thing that angels do not have that man has is man is creative. Angels are not. We know from Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, God created. God Elohim created. Created is the creator is the first word that is used to describe the attributes of God after the word Elohim, which is a plural word, which indicates God in a Trinitarian form. Now, that being said, this is critical. Angels are not creative. Now, man in himself is super smart, and that comes from God's word. We get this from Genesis 11, verse 6. The Lord said, behold, they are one people. Key point, unity there. They all have the same language, more unity. And this is building that tower of Babel, is what they've begun to do. And now here's what he says. Now, nothing which they purpose to do will be impossible for them. Speaking regarding man. Now, this suggests infinite creative potential. Now, when you combine infinite creative potential with man's wickedness, and you get this is a bad recipe. This explains in Genesis 6:3 why God had to limit man's days to 120 years. In other words, man's life had to be cut from the days when in the early years man lived to 700, 800, 900 years old. God limited that, all right, the reduction of human lifespan. So I don't know about how it is up here as much, but down in my neighborhood in Alabama, the Halloween decorations, I always say to my family every year, I don't know how they could get any worse. And you know what happens the next year? They get worse. So this is the concept of infinite creative potential for what? Wickedness. It just keeps getting worse, all right? So imagine if George Soros or Bill Gates lived for 900 years. How would that go over for us? Not good, right? This was very wise of God to limit man's creativity or his lifespan because of the creative, wicked potential that exists. Man is super smart. So look at this. Angels aren't creative. Man is super smart, and man creates all kinds of things, right? I mean, look around us. Everything here is created by humans. Satan is not creative. Being angelic, not human, he thus needs man to aid him in any creativity that he might want to engage in. This is a critical concept for what I'm trying to share. Satan needs humans to create stuff. God is the creator. Satan wants to be God. What does Satan need to be able to do? Create things, right? But he can't. He's not creative by nature. Humans are. So this is why Satan needs humans to use for his creative endeavors. Tim Chafee, how many have been to the Creation Museum or the Ark Encounter? Raise your hand down in Kentucky. Okay. Tim Chafee and I used to work together at a school in Northwest Illinois before the Creation Museum was built. So he's a personal friend of mine, but he is the content manager of attractions for both the Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum. And he wrote a book. Here it is, Fallen, the Sons of God and the Nephilim. This is from his own website. He wrote the book, and here's what he says. The Bible tells us that rebellious angelic beings married women, and their offspring were the Nephilim, the giants. This sin was against the natural order. Now, there are about 4 major interpretations of this Genesis 6, 1 through 4, and this is only one of them. I'm not out to necessarily convince you that this is the best interpretation. I personally think it is. Tim Chafee does as well, and he explains that in his book. But my point to you is that in order for angels to have any creative ability, they have to involve humans in the process. It can't be just angels, all right? This is important. Now, Satan wants to be God, or perhaps he thinks he is God. We've already looked at that scripture. So next point, transhumanism is the co-opted work of Satan in man in order for Satan to gain through man's creativity. This key point there, Satan has to use man's creativity to gain the ability to create, because man is a sub-creator. He's made in God's image. Man is very creative. The ability to kill and destroy at will, the ability to be omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, to know all, to be everywhere, to possess all power. So I want you to understand that the transhumanist agenda, which I will define right now, because you might be wondering what that is. Transhumanism from the Cambridge Dictionary. My references are up at the top. The date of access that is right here. Transhumanism is the theory that science and technology can help human beings develop beyond what is physically and mentally possible at the present time. Transhumanism, where man supposedly ascends to what? godhood and life extension, or another way to say that is immortality. Transhumanism will asserts that with all the new technologies available, mankind will be able to solve every challenge it faces. Fascinating. This is replacing God with human technology, right? Now, also, and this comes from Artificial Intelligence, Transhumanism, and the De-Evolution of Democracy by Richard R. Schmidt, PhD. And he says this in his book on page 98 through 101 regarding transhumanism. It's also described as technologically mediated evolution. That's essentially the shortest way you can define it, with a vision to obtain eternal life for the human body, or at least the human brain. Self-optimization, interesting word here, colonization of space, and immortality. So when I refer to transhumanism, this is the idea of man gaining immortality, living forever without God. And they need DNA for this. So the DNA tech development is very, very important for this agenda to move forward. And in order for Satan to, and let me just move on to the next point here because I'll explain it here. Since Satan is not creative, does not know all, is not everywhere, does not possess all power, he must use what already exists as tools. Hence the left's love affair and captivation with DNA, AI, and human unity. So the AI is critical because, and I'll get to this AI development later on, but I want you to see the connection between AI and DNA here in this article. Larry Ellison, who Trump has put up second day of Trump administration in his second term, he had Larry Ellison standing next to him talking about how AI was gonna be advanced and whatnot. I'll show that later. But here's what he says. Larry Ellison wants to put all Americans' data, including DNA, in one big Oracle system for AI to study. Now, I don't know if you remember, some years ago, there was a lawsuit in Michigan about where some family sued the hospital for selling its child's DNA after the birth of their child to the Chinese. You guys remember that? That's been going on for a long time. Why would the Chinese want DNA from human babies in Michigan, right? Well, they want all the DNA. Everyone wants DNA because DNA is a tool of Satan to gain this transhuman agenda. And AI is going to study it. Now, we'll talk more about that. Here it is. And this is from Larry Ellison. I have to tell the AI model as much about my country as I can. We need to unify all the national data. Unification is a critical part. I'll get to in a minute. If governments want in, key concept, if you want to participate, you got to give the data, right? This is acts on a government level, but also acts on a personal level. Spatial information, economic data, electronic healthcare records, including genomic data, there's your DNA, and about infrastructure, whatever they've got basically, and put it all into one place to be analyzed by the algorithms. All right, as long as countries will put their data, how much of it? All of it in a single place, we can use what? AI to help manage. This is key concept. AI's goal is to manage or control, another way to say that, the care of all the patients and the population at large. Now, Ellison says here, of course, such vast database system could also be the precursor to a pervasive surveillance system, an idea that Ellison last year said he feels would be desirable and would like Oracle to help facilitate. So when I point this out, I want you to understand that Trump has put this guy up as the main guy to push this forward. And this is not a good situation. All right. So quickly, why do humans gravitate toward unity? This is a critical concept that I think is important to understand. Man is made in God's image. Here's the answer. Man is made in God's image. God is one God in three persons, right? God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, who exists in perfect unity. Think of this, the Deuteronomy, the Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Remember, the first word for God in the Genesis 1:1 is Elohim, this giving this idea of unity. All right. Mankind naturally, therefore, seeks this unity aspect of being made in God's image, but the fall has corrupted its expression and its fulfillment. Man seeks unity because that's his image. He's made to be in unity. Knowing this, Satan presses the issue by offering fulfillment of this longing for unity, but a counterfeit of it. Satan's always into the counterfeit, right? The counterfeit of the heaven, God's new heaven and new earth, is Satan's new world order. It's a counterfeit. knowing he'll get many takers. Now, human unity also allows Satan the practical lordship, meaning the omni, right, over all the people more easily. That just works in his favor. Man also, knowing he is but dust, finds fulfillment in being part of something bigger than himself. This is the team aspect. When kids are on a baseball team or whatever, you know, they're part of something bigger than themselves. They take fulfillment in that. This is where people find fulfillment in unity. Now, Satan uses all the aspects of man being made in God's image to his evil advantage. He employs man's creativity to gain his goal of becoming God by tempting man with the same desire. That's what happened in the garden, Genesis 3:5. Then he unifies humanity under this false hope to achieve it while dominating them all. Now, let's finish this out. DNA is used to create new life. Yes? Who's the author of DNA? God is the author of DNA. Now listen to Yuval Noah Harari regarding creating new life. He's a transhumanist as well.
You think about the abilities of gods according to various mythologies. We are now acquiring these abilities to ourselves. Like in the Bible, God is the creator. His chief power is to create. He creates animals and plants and humans according to his wishes. Now we are gaining this power to create life, just like God, and in a way we even go beyond the biblical God. Because even if you believe the Bible, the only thing God managed to create are organic beings. All these trees and giraffes and humans, they are just organic. But we are now trying to create inorganic entities, inorganic life forms, cyborgs, artificial intelligence, and so forth. If we succeed, and there is a very good chance we will, then very soon we will be beyond the God of the Bible.
That's a pretty bold, arrogant statement, yes? He wants to go beyond, not just be like God, but go beyond. And specifically in the power of creating. And this is why, again, the left is fascinated and captivated with DNA, because in the ability to manipulate DNA, they can create. At least that is what they believe, and that's what they're pushing for. Also, artificial intelligence tech is used to provide the other attributes of being in the class of or in competition with God. So Internet of Bodies, Internet of Things, literally connecting all things living and non-living into an observable and controllable grid. So let's quickly look at, let's do Internet of Bodies very quickly, and we'll look at the Internet of Things next. This is from RAND Corporation.
Charted territory. The Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is actually an ecosystem. It's a bunch of devices that are connected to the internet that contain software and that either collect personal health data about you or can alter the body's function. We think of the Internet of Bodies as this collection of all these devices as well as all the data that the devices are gathering about.
Did you hear her say that it can collect personal data about you or alter the body's function? I want you to understand these things are two-way streets, all right?
There are pills now that have an electronic sensor that let a healthcare provider know whether you have taken the medication. It's murky at the moment, and so there's not a lot of clarity into who owns the data, what happens to it, who it gets sold to, how it's being used. And there's even potentially national security and global security risks.
So I'm going to show, let's see here. This is just, I want you to see, I'm going to talk later about tokenization. It's on your sheet there if you've got the handout. Tokenization is digitizing everything. And you might say, how can a person be digitized? Well, this is an example of how a person can be digitized. The facial recognition, etc. It can be digitized in a computer system. So this is Internet of Bodies, connecting all bodies together. Internet of Things. Let's take a look at this brief video, just a little bit of it.
Everything is connected to the internet. Well, not everything, but almost. The Internet of Things, or IoT, is a system of devices, computers, digital machines, and even people and animals that can transfer data over a network. As long as a thing has a unique identifier or IP address, it's part of this system. Things in this system include cell phones, laptops, devices that obviously connect to the internet and share data. But IoT also includes a person with a heart monitor implant, a farm animal with a biochip transponder, or a car alerting the driver of low tire pressure.
So the concept is anything that can be connected to the internet through an IP address is part of this Internet of Things. And so the goal, of course, if you're Satan, what do you want to do? You want to connect everything together so you can have control over it. And into, as I say here, an observable, controllable grid. Look at this. Let's just take a look at this grid. This is called what three words? Raise your hand if you've heard of what three words before. Anybody out there? So notice the grid. I'm going to back up here so you can see what I'm doing or where this is. This is New York City. Let's go to where we are, Fremont, Michigan. Oh, let's see here. Nuevo, oh, I'm sorry. Fremont, there we go. Let's zoom in. That's the four-way stop, right? Let's see. That's the Fremont Library. We're in this building, am I right? Yeah. So the front door, well, I guess it's not the front door, but the door you come in at, okay? It has a name, Pram Compress Crater, which sounds silly, but what am I trying to say to you? The world is mapped with a 3-meter square grid. This is it, and you can see it for yourself. And everything then within this system, if you can imagine everything in here having an IP address, in other words, being part of the Internet of Things and Internet of Bodies, from your smartphones to the smart devices that are in this building, smart meters, there's a you can see clearly how this could be a control grid, yes? So this is an important concept I want you to understand, and that I'm not making up. It actually exists. It's in the process of being created even more fully. Now, Revelation 13 and 2 Thessalonians 2 suggests that that is Satan, will advance far in his endeavor. But of course, he's not going to ever be God, but he will get pretty far in his earthly control of things. The first beast we see from Revelation 13 has great authority, great power, given by the dragon, that's Satan, power to overcome the saints. One would not even think to wage war with him, and all who dwell on earth will worship him. The second beast makes everyone on the earth worship the first beast. The key word here is makes. How does he make? Well, if we're in a controllable grid connected through the Internet of Bodies and Internet of Things, it's easy to see how this could occur. He makes an image of the beast. He makes the image speak and gives it breath. He kills all who do not worship the image and excludes from the economy all who refuse the mark. You might wonder, how does this kill all happen? Keep with me, and I'll talk about the digital twin concept coming up, and you'll see how this could work from a technology standpoint. What should the Christian do? Again, not be fatalistically complacent, but we should restrain, resist, stand firm against. We should not join it. We should expose it, and we should put on the full armor of God. Nor should we fear. All right, that's not the Christian response. Now, all that to show that there is a scheme that Satan has, and it does involve technology, artificial intelligence, DNA, and all the things that go on there. This is simply how Satan gains his control. Why am I speaking about this topic now? Well, because the scripture, all right? Here's the book I referenced earlier, Artificial Intelligence, Transhuman, and the De-Evolution of Democracy. In chapter 6, the author writes this. There's the author, Richard Schmidt. He says this: the scriptures clearly state during the tribulation, mass corruption will occur on a global scale. The future satanic global system led by the Antichrist does not allow for a republic or representative democracy. All right? The dictator-run government, economy, and religion will not require any elections. And if you look at the prophecy in Daniel chapter 2 with the head of gold and the whole statue there, and it ends with the feet of toes, or 10 toes, those toes, the scripture says, are 10 kings. We are looking forward to, in time, and seeing a time where there is no democracy. It'll be run by 10 kings, which themselves will give their allegiance to the Antichrist at the top. There is no democracy in the future in that sense. And so we say, well, what about the season? I'm looking at the season also. Jesus criticized the people, the Pharisees here, for knowing how to analyze the appearance of the earth, but they were not able to analyze the present time. I'm suggesting that we should be no different. We should be able to analyze the present time. In 1 Thessalonians 1 through 5, Paul writes, "Now, as to the times and epochs, brethren, you have no need of anything to be written to you, for you yourselves know full well." This is the key point. You know full well that the day of the Lord will come just like a thief in the night. When they're saying peace and safety, then destruction will come upon them suddenly like labor pains on a woman with child, and they will not escape. Here's the key point. But you, brothers, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you like a thief, for you are all sons of the light, sons of the day. My point, Christians should be aware of the season that we are in, just like Paul is suggesting here, and Jesus suggested directly to the Pharisees at that time. That's what I'm looking at, right? That's why I've got this topic now. I'm looking at the scripture, looking at the season, and I'm bringing these things out to you. Now, with that said, the nearness of Revelation 13, of course, we know that this is the mark of the beast. There it is. They have a mark on their right hand of their forehead. Here's your economic exclusion. No one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark. And this concept is already around us, and I'll show you that shortly. But first, I'm going to go to a clip from Andy Woods, and he is going to show us, I think, well done, how we're being groomed for this time in history. And so let's go there right now. This is set at the right spot. Let's listen to Andy Woods for a couple minutes.
In those verses, but here we're just focusing on a system that comes into place that's global, it's universal, covers the entire world, and you can't participate in the system unless you receive some kind of insignia mark on the right hand or the forehead. If you're doing things outside of the government narrative, then a button is pushed perhaps, and you're pushed out of the intertwined global economy. And Bible commentators, teachers have scratched their heads and puzzled over this for the centuries, wondering how such a thing like this could come into existence. And yet in our day, we don't have to scratch our heads at all, because the technology exists for this kind of system to come into existence. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that some of the technology that I'll show you is that system. I'm not saying this is that, because you can't say this is that until the second half of the tribulation period, when that system will be up and running and fully functional. However, prophecies don't just happen in a vacuum. Long before a prophecy is fulfilled, the stage is set, and we're seeing the stage set constantly through technology. You know, we talk about groomers and grooming people sexually, desensitizing people, underage people to become involved in prostitution or whatever. What about technological grooming? You know, desensitizing people to technology to the point where, you know, they're willing in the name of convenience to receive something electronically on their right hand or forehead to make their lives more expeditious, more convenient, make life a little easier. I mean, aren't we being groomed for that kind of a setup that the Bible says is coming? I mean, I love technology just like anybody else. I'm not anti-technology. I mean, I'm using technology right now to, Lord willing, teach truth. But we know where all this technology is headed. I mean, biblically, we know it's going to fall into the wrong person's hands, the Antichrist. And he's going to use that to enslave the world. And what is promised?
Okay, we'll stop right there. I think that's a perspective that's helpful. And so he says prophecies don't happen in a vacuum. The stage needs to be set. Are we not being groomed for this? Take a look at the next clip in regards to that, and think specifically of the convenience.
Now to a story that is part personal finance, part science fiction. In Sweden, people are now implanting microchips into their hand that function as their credit card, their ID, and more. Talk about a mobile wallet. Sarah Harmon has more on this brave new world.
When Elias Brotberger goes to work, he doesn't need ID. And he doesn't need money. In fact, much of what he needs to get through the day is hidden right there, just below the surface, in his hand.
You like to touch it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, weird. Yeah, it's like a grain of rice.
Yeah, a grain of rice.
Embedded in his hand is a microchip that serves as his keys, his ID, and his wallet.
Yeah, it's all in chip, so I use it like to get around the building.
Buy snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's buy some snacks.
Exactly.
So I can't open it.
No.
Okay.
So what I need to do is I need to first blip my chip, and it will log me in, and from there I get access to the fridge.
Did you see that? She does not have access unless she has the technology, right? This is how people can be excluded from the economy if they don't participate with the functioning system that is in place. And this is how dangerous that is. I'm going to stop the clip there because of time. And so I'm suggesting to you that the tech that's needed for such a mark of the beast has actually been here since about 2013. All right. What's left is to create the conditions, meaning the social conditions on Earth, to use it on every person. So I submit that's what's happening. You can see here the former DARPA head proposes pills and tattoos to replace passwords. So Bill Gates' new thing is to take cell phones and make them actually part of your body and put them on your skin. He's been talking about that, but actually that technology has actually been around for a while. You can see here Motorola, Regina Dugan suggested in the Wall Street Journal, blah, 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 that pills and tattoos could replace passwords as the radical solution to the perennial authentication problem. She was formerly the head of the Pentagon's forward-looking DARPA, this is Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and currently works as an executive at where? Google, all right, where she leads the advanced technology projects. Okay, fascinating, but this is, in other words, the technology's been out for actually quite a long time. I'm going to skip the zero trust policy now. I do want to, I may just talk about that later. We need to move on. Bible trivia, who was the second son of Zebulun? It was Elon, okay? A little bit of fun trivia there. So I want to now, the question is, what does this have to do with Elon Musk, Donald Trump? That's what I'm getting to next, and I'm going to go through this as rapidly as possible. So I want to get into your heads the concept of controlled opposition. Here's a definition, the reference is there. Controlled opposition refers to a person or organization that appears to oppose a particular faction, but is actually working for that faction. So it's a deception, right? Or aligned with interests other than their stated cause. This strategy can involve black propaganda, saboteurs who claim to oppose a faction, but are in fact working for it. Now, this is my comments here in the yellow. This scenario also includes many working under deception who are working for the opposition unaware. All right, and what's my motivation here? Look at Ephesians 5:11. What does the scripture say? Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. So when people are working for the darkness, or you want to call it Satan's agenda, if they're deceived about that, then that's a problem. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to rather expose it. And that's part of the motivation I have for giving these particular talks. So let's look back at this. Listen to Yuval Noah Harari talking about the death blow to the global order, what's left of the global order. He's speaking about, he's being asked whether Trump, if he's elected for a second time, what's that going to look like? Remember, the Yuval Noah Harari is always speaking of the new world order. He's part of that group. So listen to what he says.
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again shortly?
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order.
Okay, I'm suggesting that that's false. What Trump is doing is providing this controlled opposition. So let me give you some more examples. Headline, InfoWars, breaking exclusive. Top Russian strategist says that the world has just witnessed the second American Revolution, that the globalist system has been defeated. Has the globalist system been defeated? My answer, not at all. Actually, it's been accelerated. I'll get to that in a little while. Another one. Europe hit by political earthquake. Musk-backed conservative populist parties win big in government elections, spelling doom for the collapsing globalist system. Is the globalist system collapsing? A lot of people think because Trump was elected and because he's anti-United Nations and some of the stances he's had, that he is collapsing the globalist system. I'm suggesting to you that's exactly opposite of what's happening. And that's what I'm going to share in the rest of my presentation. All right. It's really controlled opposition. So the question that has to be asked is MAGA, that's Make America Great Again, actually dark MAGA? Is MAGA devastating the deep state? Let me get to a quick point before I get in to answer that question. The MAGA has been divided essentially into two groups, whether you know it or not. There's the pro-tech MAGA world, and there's the anti-tech, or maybe not anti, but just the regular, you might want to say the regular MAGA world. Regular people who are pro-Bible, pro-US, pro-patriots. But there's a portion of the MAGA group that are what is called the techno-optimists. I'll discuss this below. The tech elites, the ultra-Christian tech bros, as they're sometimes called, also called the alt-right or the alternative right, and sometimes they include the Christian nationalists. There's a lot of terms here. I will be looking at these as we go along, but I want you to understand, notice the VS here, the verses. Really what we have is two groups that have divided, MAGA has divided into two groups, whether planned or not. Okay, let's not go there at the moment. This is the reality. And I'm suggesting to you that this group right here is subjecting this group on purpose, but they're both part of the MAGA movement. As we go along, let's quickly look at the dominant global narrative, Sustainable Markets Initiative. And as we look at this, notice building a sustainable future. This is King Charles' website for people and what? Planet. This is the global narrative. Once again, just showing. Now, the question is MAGA advancing that narrative, meaning the global narrative, the people planet narrative I just showed you? My answer is yes. It is actually advancing that narrative despite contrary hype. There is a lot of contrary hype, as the headlines I just showed you above indicate. Nevertheless, my position is that, in fact, the MAGA movement, especially with this portion of it, is advancing that global narrative. Okay, the 5-year countdown. This is what was out earlier this year from the United Nations. Women, money, AI, and peace. The coming year, that's 2025, brings a number of major milestones for sustainable development. In 2025, we begin the 5-year countdown to the delivery date for the Sustainable Development Goals. I just want you to understand that they are eager to get these goals accomplished. They're, once again, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Now, let's see, what's my slide 44? I already did that one. Let's go to Marx and the inversion of praxis. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up now, I'm going to skip what this inversion of praxis writing here, I'm going to show you at the very end. Think of this, to invert something is to turn it upside down. So inversion of praxis, word praxis refers to practice. You invert the practice. You've got a practice of a certain way, you invert it, you're flipping it upside down. So look here, man rules nature. This is the way God has designed it, Genesis chapter 1, man over nature. This is good, it's the way God designed it. But if you invert that, flip it upside down, nature over man, in other words, nature is on top, man is below, man serves nature. This is evil. This, remember Isaiah 5:20, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. This is what Marx's model was and has been, is to invert things upside down. Now, that's important because here we go. Sustainability is the classic inversion of praxis model regarding both man and nature. It's the people planet narrative. Now look at this. This is a quote from Karl Marx in his Economic and Philosophic Manuscripts, 1844. Here's what he said, quote, this communism as fully developed naturalism equals humanism. Communism equals what? Humanism and fully developed naturalism. This is the people planet narrative. And as fully developed humanism equals naturalism, it is the genuine resolution of the conflict between man and nature and between man and man. Marx summed it all up with he wanted the conflict to be resolved, and it is resolved in the people-planet narrative. So when I show you the people-planet narrative, I want you to understand fundamentally it's a Marxist concept. It's simply developed to the point in this current day. Now, Dr. James Lindsay is not a Christian. I'm going to show you a quick clip from him. This clip is before the European Union about 3-4 years ago, and he's defining Marxism to the EU. Listen to what he says. I'm not going to show this whole clip because it's a little long. I'm going to go to the end.
Was that we must.
And just we'll get what we can out of this. Let's listen to what he says. Again, you can see his name right here. Not a Christian. Why am I using a non-Christian? Because I want to show this is not just some Christian, people criticize, oh, it's just the way Christians see it. They see it wrong. This is a very anti-Christian person essentially teaching. In other words, you don't have to be a Christian to understand what Marx wanted to accomplish. And here is what he says.
As human self-estrangement. That's a quote from the Economic Philosophic Manuscripts of 1844. So Marx was interested in controlling or understanding and controlling how man produces himself. And he writes about this exclusively in the 1840s, very deeply. How do we do this? And he looks at the economic conditions and he says, this is where it is. And that's why we get economic Marxism, and that's why we think Marx was an economist. But Marx was never an economist. He was a theologian.
What does he say Marx was? A theologian.
He wanted to produce a religion for mankind that would supersede all of the religions of mankind and bring him back to his true social nature.
That is the people-planet narrative. Now, let's move on and define some terms quickly. Technocracy is a word I've used several times. This is from Etymology Online. It's the origin of the word. It's control of society or the economy by technical experts, all the way back to 1919. All right, here we have another one. The need of a Supreme National Council of Scientists to advise us how best to live and how most efficiently, key word, to realize our individual aspirations and our national purpose, 1922. Back in the 1930s, 1937, here, the technocrat, this is actually the technocrats themselves, they defined it this way. Technocracy is the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population of this continent. That's what technocracy is, social engineering, and it's everything run by technical experts. Now, I have to take a quick definition of communism here. There are two kinds of communists this is my position on this. This is an oversimplified presentation, but I need to explain it a little bit for you to understand the tension going on out there. So this is from my last presentation here, or 2 presentations ago. Here we go. The Marxist communists and the transhumanist communists. I'm going to designate the Marxist communists with a lowercase c, the technocrats with a capital C, or the transhumanist communists. So these transhumanist communists are technocrats. I call them global communists. And what their goal is to do is to methodically advance the satanic agenda. I've already told you the satanic agenda that Satan wants to be God. He's got to include man in the process, and he needs DNA and AI to accomplish his work. So he has this total control. That's what's happening with the global communists. The regular French Revolution neo-communists, I call them, they're just in it for themselves. They're the useful idiots of who? Of the global communists. All right. By the way, that useful idiots is a Russian term. It was coined, I believe, by Trotsky, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got 2 types. But here's the point: these are enemies of one another. Typically, we get the idea of that from the Sunnis and the Shiites in the Muslim world. They're all Muslims. Iraq and Iran, they're Muslims, right? But they hate each other, and they've been fighting each other for decades. They kill each other all the time. Well, that's what happens here. And the point of that is that we can't, just because these people argue with one another, doesn't mean they're our friends. They're enemies. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to talk about global communism for a minute. We know it's the political form of religious humanism from Karl Marx. Technocracy is the means by which it will be required. Now, I'm going to show a clip from Elon Musk. Remember, the title of this is Elon Musk, or Dark MAGA Elon Musk and Bible Prophecy. Let's listen to this, and I'm really doing this I want you to see where Elon Musk fits here. Okay, listen to what he says.
You're a neuroscience company, and you're working to build basically an interface to the brain.
Yeah. Electrode to neuron interface at a micro level.
Okay, what is it? Like, I'm gonna have like a plug in my head that's gonna fit into a hard drive? Like, or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
This would be implanted surgically. And it would do what? Could you input? Could you download Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, what
The long-term aspiration for Neuralink would be to achieve a symbiosis with artificial intelligence, and to achieve a sort of democratization of intelligence, such that it is not monopolistically held in a purely digital form by governments and large corporations.
Basically, an effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes.
To beat machines, you basically have to merge with machines.
Most likely, yes. Essentially, how do we ensure that the future constitutes the sum of the will of humanity? And so if we have billions of people with a high bandwidth link to the AI extension of themselves, it would actually make everyone hyper smart.
Okay, so what he said, how do we ensure, this is a quote now, how do we ensure that the future consists of the sum of the will of humanity? Does that sound biblical? Nope, it's the pinnacle of religious humanism, where man solves all of his problems. It's part of the global brain concept, where it interconnects all humans and their technological artifacts. It plays the role of a brain for the planet, for planet Earth. Increasingly ties users together into a single information processing system that functions as part of the collective nervous system of the planet. That's what he meant when he talked about putting everyone, having the collective, the sum of the will of humanity. Look at the hive mind. The hive mind, it's this collective mental activity comparable to a single mind-controlling behavior. The collective thoughts, ideas, and opinions of a group of people, such as internet users, regarded as functioning together as a single mind. So this is exactly what he's talking about there. All right, the sum of the will of humanity. That's what he wants to bring about with the technology that he is presenting. And he said it's to achieve a symbiosis with AI. I suggest to you that that's a bad thing, intensely. All right. And so I want you to understand that Musk is not a good guy. He is a global communist, methodically advancing the satanic agenda that we have already laid out. What's the relationship between the Marxist, neo-communist, little c, and the global communist, big C? This is my answer to that question. The global communists use the Marxist communists as useful idiots to accomplish their satanic agenda. That's what they do. And the Marxist communists are expendable to the global communists. Just like Christians with different gifts serve different parts of the body of Christ, so too different factions of Satan's followers are used by him, that's Satan, for different purposes. The typical pattern is that once purpose is served, the servants are dispensed with. And how is this relevant? First, enemies of the Marxist communists are not necessarily our friends. All right, there is a battle for supremacy going on. Both sides are bad. Quick example: Greta Thunberg and Peter Thiel, arguing. They're both bad. They're both communists, just of a different flavor. The recent article came out just a few days ago. Elections denier Kathy Griffin doesn't think Trump won 2024. Calls Elon Musk a professional Nazi. Well, they're both communists, these two, okay? There's just of a different flavor. There are different sides, if you will, battling for the supremacy. Now, some criticisms of the global communists from the Marxist communists are legitimate because as an example, Maxine Waters, which I would consider a little c, criticizing the alt-right. I'm suggesting the alt-right is bad. However, no conservative or Christian would believe her because she's a communist. You understand? She's a Marxist. Why would we ever listen to Maxine Waters? But if Maxine Waters is fighting another enemy of hers that's not the Christians, she might be right in her attack. You understand how this works? This is a serious deception. It's serious. Why do I say serious? Because it's very hard to recognize. It's hard to figure it out. It's hard to understand what's going on. I'm going to try to get to this no kings thing later. I don't want to do it now because of time constraints, but I have it in the thing after I explain the dark MAGA. I want to bring the no kings example out. So the enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend. All right. Now, we need to define stakeholder capitalism. So let's do that right here. Stakeholder capitalism is the type of capitalism that it's a management approach benefiting how many stakeholders? All stakeholders. It emphasizes the importance of balancing the needs of various stakeholders and fostering, here's the word, sustainable and ethical business environment. Stakeholder capitalism seeks to address broader societal and what? Environmental issues. Now, this is contrasted with shareholder capitalism. Shareholder capitalism is the capitalism that we're all used to, where you buy shares in a company and the company makes a profit and the company's working for the shareholder to benefit them. But stakeholder capitalism benefits everybody by especially benefiting the environment. Klaus Schwab will define it here.
Let's also be clear. The future is not just happening. The future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room. We have the means to improve the states of the world. But two conditions are necessary. The first one is that we act all as stakeholders of larger communities, that we serve not our only self-interests, but we serve the community. That's what we call stakeholder responsibility. And second, that we collaborate. And this is the reason why you find many opportunities here during the meeting to engage into very action and impact-oriented initiatives to make.
All right, so there it was, serving the community. We all need to serve the community. Sounds really nice, but it's human unity. Human unity, if it's not in Christ, it's rebellion against God. That's what it is. And talking about collaboration. This is a key thing to understand because it has the word capitalism in there and it tricks people because they think of capitalism as a good Western value, but actually this shareholder capitalism is not, it's global, it's globalist. Now let's get to the Dark Enlightenment. This is a key part of the presentation to understand. Note, the Dark Enlightenment is to the Enlightenment as postmodernism is to modernism. Here, let me read the definition first. This is from Patrick Wood. And here's what he says. Technocracy's underground political system wants to destroy democracy. He says the neo-reactionary movement, which I will define shortly, also known as the Dark Enlightenment, believes that democracy is a mistake and that equality is not a desirable goal. Those who adhere to it believe that the state should be governed like a company, with an imperial and techno-authoritarian president. Practically clandestine, it has already managed to infiltrate Trump's populist right and Silicon Valley. The future could be an ultra-capitalist, hyper-technological neo-monarchy. Beyond other, more widespread futuristic imaginings, this is what's proposed by the neo-reactionary movement, also known as the Dark Enlightenment. Those who adhere to it believe that the liberal democracy is a mistake and that equality isn't a desirable end. In short, it's all a farce. So this is an introduction to the word Dark Enlightenment. It's called a neo-reactionary movement because of this. So I'm just giving you an explanation. A Dark Enlightenment is to enlightenment as postmodernism is to modernism. So postmodernism was a reaction. In other words, it was a reactionary philosophy to the failure of modernism to fulfill man's deepest need. Postmodernism, therefore, is a reactionary philosophy. Likewise, the Dark Enlightenment is a new or current reactionary philosophy to the failure of the Enlightenment era. All right, the Enlightenment era supposedly gave us democracy because everything is so messed up. Think of the Biden administration, the Kamala, potentials there. We look at it as we think of the, just think of how it's messed up. And so the reaction of that is to go do something different. So let's here, U.S. aid So let's go on, and I'm going to define it more as we go along. Dark Enlightenment, neo-reactionary movement. Let's see here. Already did that. Sorry, my bad. Oh, here it is. This is a treatise written by Nick Land. As you can see there, there's the book, The Dark Enlightenment, and you can buy it there. He's an English philosopher, and I'm going to explain it now. The T.news indicates that my words under that are coming from the technocracy.news website. The brackets indicate my comments. Here we go. The movement argues that the fusion of technology and capitalism, key point, remember I said this is not about Trump, it's about technology and capitalism. What kind of capitalism? Well, shareholder versus stakeholder. So this is the stakeholder capitalism. Can lead to more efficient, prosperous society under the guidance of a technocratic elite. They say democracy is an inefficient and flawed political system. It argues that democratic decision-making is often swayed by ignorance, irrationality, and short-term thinking, leading to suboptimal outcomes. Instead, the movement advocates the establishment of a technocratic, authoritarian government which is guided by enlightened elites. Now, here's my comments. The name basically highlights the assertion that the liberal ideas birthed in the historical Enlightenment period of Europe and Western history have led to the current disastrous society. Quote, a quote, inefficient and flawed political system. That is the dark consequences of following the Enlightenment ideals. This is where the name comes from. The movement emphasizes the importance of hierarchy and the rule of the intelligent, or the capable, often citing biological determinism and race realism. This sounds like Charles Darwin, doesn't it? This includes a belief in the superiority of certain groups based upon perceived intelligence or socioeconomic status. This, I'm suggesting to you, is what the alt-right is. So when Maxine Waters is hammering the alt-right, she's actually correct, okay? Because it's this idea of superiority of certain individuals. Neo-reactionaries, again, Dark Enlightenment, believe in replacing modern nation states and democracy with authoritarian city-states or a monarchical system where a dictator president or a national CEO would govern. They call them GovCorps, government corporations. Democracy, it is claimed, is incompatible with freedom. It leads to mediocrity and, keyword, inefficiency. Think of the Doge department trying to get rid of what? Inefficiency. I'm suggesting to you that has nothing to do, you shouldn't say that. That's just a face word that makes us, we're as a general populace ignorant about what these words actually mean. And so they get away with all kinds of things. Dark Enlightenment is a centralization of power in the hands of unelected computer tech giants. This is my quick one-line summary of what it is. So what is Dark MAGA? Let's listen to Elon Musk himself, and let's get the name origin here.
Come on up here, Elon. He created the first major American car company in generations, and his rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. Come here. Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm Dark MAGA.
There's the name, okay? I'm not just MAGA, I'm Dark MAGA. Notice the black, everything's black, right? So that's where the name came from. And Dark MAGA signifies Musk's endorsement of what? The Dark Enlightenment, all right? If you look into the connections, that's the reality. Now, where does this come from? From other people here. Curtis Yarvin, he's an anti-democracy and pro-Trump, but the obscure Dark Enlightenment blogger influencing the next U.S. administration. Key figures in the incoming administration follow Curtis Yarvin, who's pushing for an autocratic takeover of the U.S. That's what Yarvin is pushing for. And so I'm going to show you just a brief part of this interview, very short because of time. Listen to the introduction regarding Curtis Yarvin.
For years, Curtis Yarvin had been writing online about political theory and relative obscurity. His ideas were pretty extreme, that institutions at the heart of American intellectual life, like the mainstream media and academia, need to be dissolved. He also believes that government bureaucracy should be radically gutted, and that American democracy should be replaced by what he calls a monarchy run by a CEO.
Did you hear the replacement? Remember I said at the beginning the Nazis were replaced with the communists, right? It's a bad replacement. This is the idea. He's suggesting things that we think need to be replaced probably should be replaced, but the replacement is something worse.
Monarch is good. It's a neutral term.
But while Yarvin himself may still be obscure, his ideas are not. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has alluded to his notions of forcibly ridding American institutions of so-called wokeism. And Yarvin has also found fans in the most powerful and increasingly political ranks of Silicon Valley, like Mark Andreessen, the venture capitalist turned informal advisor to President-elect Trump.
We are living under FDR's personal monarchy.
Peter Thiel, a Republican megadonor, has called him a powerful historian. On top of it all, Yarvin has become a fixture of the right-wing podcast universe. He's been a guest on the shows of Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, among others.
Thank you for that lovely intro, Tucker.
I've been aware.
All right, we're going to stop right there. That's just who Curtis Yarvin is and his connection to Vance and Thiel, and we'll get to these guys later. Let's talk about accelerationism. We're defining terms here, and we need to understand this one. This is the Accelerate Manifesto for an accelerationist politics. Marx, along with Land, that we just looked at, who remains the paradigmatic accelerationist thinker. For all its exploitation and corruption, capitalism remained the most advanced economic system to date. Its gains were not to be reversed, but accelerated beyond the constraints of the capitalist value form. So Karl Marx spoke about accelerating capitalism beyond its constraints. Lenin, of course, said in 1918 that the socialism is inconceivable without large-scale capitalist engineering based on the latest discoveries of modern science. So let's look at the origins then from Encyclopedia Britannica here of accelerationism. Notice the picture. What is it? First of all, it's a drastic increase in the expansion of capitalistic growth and technological development to hasten the inevitable collapse of the status quo. Collapse the system by expanding what? Capitalism, capitalistic growth. Remember, we're dealing with stakeholder capitalism, but it comes, whoops, sorry, I exited that too soon. Let's go down below. The origins. The seeds of accelerationist thought in the writings of German philosopher and economist Karl Marx, who argued in the Communist Manifesto that the frantic intensification of capitalism would ultimately prompt its own demise via revolution. That's important to understand. So this came from Karl Marx, ultimately, this accelerationist idea. Now, we got to connect the accelerationism to technology. So let's quickly look at an event horizon. This is an astronomical term, the boundary around the black hole, and on with which no matter or radiation can escape. The singularity. Approaching the singularity, we have crossed the event horizon of artificial intelligence. I'm going to get this word singularity a little bit more shortly. Look at this. Elon Musk says the event horizon. Look, we are on the event horizon of the singularity. This was a quote, February 23, 2025. So what does all this mean? Let me put this all together for you. Putting it all together, the event horizon of the singularity means that we are at the point of no return. That's the event horizon of the explosion of technology. That's the singularity. The singularity is an astronomical term that refers to the supposed Big Bang. When the little point exploded, that was the singularity. And so they're looking for an explosion of technology, and Elon Musk says we are at the point of no return, specifically in the realm of artificial intelligence, going from artificial general intelligence to artificial superintelligence, setting up an inflationary period of rapid evolutionary change of society. And so that's where Elon Musk is at. That's what he wants. Now, I'm going to skip the Glenn Beck, Eric Schmidt links because I've really explained it already. Glenn Beck says the same thing I do. I know Glenn's not a Christian, but he had a pretty good explanation of this. Now, let's look at accelerationism more. It's a range of revolutionary, reactionary ideologies that call for the drastic intensification of capitalistic growth, technological change, to destabilize existing systems and create radical social transformations. That sounds a lot like a what? A Great Reset, right? It's the global transition towards an unparalleled technological singularity. Interestingly, this is consistent with Alice Bailey's New World Order. Now, Alice Bailey, you may remember her. She was the one who was this occultist who first popularized the term the New Age in the Age of Aquarius. And she wrote extensively back in the 1920s and 1930s. And she proposed that in 2025, the Kali Yuga would be entirely obliterated. And this simply refers to the current status quo system. And then a new system would come up about called the Yuga cycle, culminating in the next golden age. Why am I showing that? Because this is a buzzword. When you hear the golden age concept, it really goes back to Alice Bailey and her vision for a new world order and a new the New Age movement. She also wrote in the Externalization of Hierarchy that the spiritual beings would incarnate Earth and help guide humanity into harmonious enlightenment. She said that this first stage of this was potentially being set for 2025. And what she said is this, what she believed is that the New World Order had to arise out of the destruction of the old world. So here's the quote from her: "A new world order must be built out of the spoliation of all existing culture and civilization." Now, I'm still talking about accelerationism, but the concept with acceleration is we must destroy the old and to bring in the new, and the new is coming through the hyped up technological advancements. Now, Trump and Vance understand this, that there is an accelerationist left and right. There's two sides of this. Remember the communists, the global communists and the Marxist communists. They're all communists, but they oppose one another. The Trump and Vance will be considered accelerationist right. All right. So here, there is a significant overlap between the two radical lefts and the radical right's interpretation of accelerationism. Both advocate extreme application of Schumpeter's creative destruction, key point, as the only viable solution to the approaching catastrophe. For the left, it is the alleged climate disaster and associated societal collapse. For the right, it's economic and financial implosion and accompanying moral decay that is held to be hardwired into modern democracy. So, but they all are out to destroy the current system, but they argue amongst each other about how that is to take place. Both advocate global solutions for global problems. Total transformation is what they want of international economic, financial, political, and social structures. Only that can save us. Acceleration is the basic belief that these capacities can and should be let loose by moving beyond the limitations imposed by capitalist society. We believe it must also include the quest of Homo sapiens towards the expansion beyond the limitations of the earth and our immediate bodily forms. Okay, what is the relationship then between the Dark Enlightenment and the accelerationism? Neo-reactionism, or the Dark Enlightenment, functions to achieve accelerationism, using capitalism and technology to destabilize existing systems and create radical change. Okay, I would like to give my No Kings example, but I don't have time to do that. I do want to quickly go through. So I have defined the Dark Enlightenment. I've defined Dark MAGA. I've defined how Elon Musk is involved. I've connected Bible prophecy. What I'm going to do in the rest of the presentation until my time is up is to demonstrate specific people in this particular system. So who's who tracking the Great Reset? We're going to track this along quickly. The PayPal mafia, the tech giants. There's the PayPal mafia right there. Peter Thiel is right there. They're all named. When I talk about the PayPal mafia, it's a real group of people. These are the guys who are called the Silicon Valley tech giants. Notice the connection here, how the PayPal mafia looks set to dominate the new Trump administration. They will try to steer American policy toward less regulation of tech, pro-cryptocurrency policies, a less aggressive antitrust stance, and more cuts in major parts of the American government. All right, let's see. These tech giants joined Trump's side after years of opposing him. Bezos, Zuckerberg, Piketty attend Trump inauguration. You can see Musk, you can see Altman, etc. These were billionaires that used to be against Trump, but now all of a sudden in his second term, they have moved to his side. Many of these, it says, were among the first businesses world critics of Trump during his first term, but they have all of a sudden joined sides with him. The basic concept, Trump has many of these around him: Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, Mark Andreessen, Elon Musk, Larry Ellison, Sam Altman, and let's look at the list below. What can these guys do, these tech giants? And I wanted to share the digital twin concept because it's a significant thing, I believe. What is digital twin technology? All right, a digital twin is a digital replica of a physical object, a person, system, or process contextualized in a digital version of its environment. So you actually have a digital twin, whether you know it or not. If you have any kind of smart device, either on you, in your home, in your body, etc., you have a digital twin, and I have a digital twin. All right, digital twins are linked to real data sources. You, for instance, are a real data source. Your phone is picking up data from you and creating this digital twin from the environment, which means that the twin updates in real time to reflect the original version. So your digital twin reflects you. Okay, this transfer, which is often bidirectional, this data transfer allows for real-time status updates and can even provide users the ability to what? Alter the physical object remotely. You get it? Your digital twin can be altered or tweaked, so to speak, to affect you, which is the twin of the digital twin. Digital twins and generative AI, a powerful pairing. Together, generative AI, and digital twins can revolutionize the way organizations operate. Okay, so what I'm trying to suggest to you, if you remember what I said about AI, what's the overall purpose of AI? What is Satan's tool to gain omniscience, omnipotence, and be able to control everybody? Well, your digital twin is the way that this will likely occur, at least in part. So digital twins are an important concept. Wearables are also an important concept. Now, we all think of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Make America Healthy Again. Well, he actually, let's do this one first. He actually advocates wearables. RFK Jr. kisses technocracy with vision for every American to be hooked up with wearables within 4 years. So here it is. HHS Secretary RFK shocked the MAGA world when he addressed a congressional committee on this date. Here's the quote: "My vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years." Why did he shock the MAGA world? Well, remember, there's two MAGA worlds. There's the techno-MAGA world, and then there's the regular MAGA world. Got it? It's the regular MAGA world that was shocked. Why were they shocked? Because he's taking a technocratic vision. And where do you suppose the digital twin data is coming from? It's coming from the wearables. You wear the smartwatch feeds the data from you, literally your body temperature, your heartbeat rate, etc., even your emotional state. It's transferred to the cloud. It then goes to your digital twin. The digital twin can be tweaked and back to affect you and your own health. That's how it works. It's a two-way street. You need to understand the technology is actually way beyond what most of us think. It's past us, all right? But this is what's happening. Has he gone to the dark side? This is straight out of the technocracy playbook for integrating humans into the smart city architecture within the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. All right, so it'll also track your every movement 24/7. So looking at the wearables, we'll bring this lady up a little later, but this is dealing with your health data. Why would technocrats care about your health data? When they see the public as a herd of cattle, they naturally move to manage the herd. All right, RFK talks about citizens donning wearable medical devices. This initiative, headed by Amy Gleason, the administrator of Doge. We'll talk about her more later, as not Elon Musk, as most people thought. Okay, an AI doom loop is a problem. When we get into this technological world, the doom loop is where you have a situation where you may, excuse me, you get stuck where An AI chatbot keeps repeating the same questions. This is called the doom loop, and it happened to me just the other day regarding a tech problem I had. When AI is instituted instead of a person, the doom loop is what's going to happen. The AI will only respond what the AI will respond, and that's it. It's not a person. It can't make an adjustment. All right, let's talk again. What can these tech giants do? They're going to tokenize everything. And I need to first define what tokenization is before I can say more. Could Trump end up triggering the globalist Great Reset? From the article, the existing global order is as good as dead. What will rise out of the ashes is technocracy, another also known as scientific dictatorship, with tokenization of everything, a social credit system run by AI, a ubiquitous surveillance. It will be like a boot stomping on your face forever. That's referring to Orwell's 1984. This was from Patrick Wood. Tokenization of everything. Well, what is tokenization? Tokenization is the process of creating a digital representation of a real thing. Tokenization is just like a digital twin, essentially, only tokenization can be used also to protect sensitive data. So digital representation of a real thing. So here's my teaching on this. This is how you will own nothing and be happy. Of course, you're not going to be happy, but you will own nothing. Once everything is tokenized, including both you and your money, they will own not only everything, but also you. So everything is tokenized. Everything is turned into a digital asset. So if you look, and let me show you another representation of this. So let's look at tokenize everything, a different link here. Tokenization of everything towards a framework for understanding the potentials for tokenized assets. Tokenizing things builds something called, or facilitates something called co-opetition. Looking down below, what's the definition of this word? Co-opetition is cooperation. Those are similar words, but they're not the same. Co-opetition is cooperation between competing companies. Now, companies that compete should be what? They should be competing, not what? Not cooperating. Well, tokenization facilitates co-opetition. Why is that important? Because that's the global narrative. You have to work together in order to build the global society. Besides the benefit, it benefits in what? Governance. Tokenization allows governing people to govern or really control better. All right, tokenization of everything. Tokenizing all kinds of assets. Look at this. For this asset, various tokens would make sense. Equity tokens, debt tokens. Look at this. Participation rights as tokens. In other words, you can't participate unless you are what? Turned into a digital asset. If you're turned into a digital asset, you can be purchased and you can be traded and you can be all kinds of things can happen to you if you're a digital asset. And your participation will affect whether or not you can do one thing or another. Ownership tokens, all kinds of tokens. So here's an overview of the Liechtenstein Blockchain Act. It's really tokenization. And I'm showing this picture only to show how serious or how detailed. Notice the dandelion seeds coming off. What have they got amongst these seeds? This is tokenizing everything. Literally everything is tokenized to the point where every little thing has a digital asset or is pitched as a digital asset. This is how you're going to own nothing and be happy. Trump administration is moving toward tokenization of everything with the digital asset model that he has put forward. All right, that's what I'm getting at. Okay. We're going to combine the Internet of Things with the Internet of Bodies via a brain-computer interface, or BCI. This is, again, what these tech guys can do. Here we go. Shorten this down a little bit. Connects this brain-computer interface. It looks like this. It is simply a way to connect the brain and therefore the person to the cloud, or the internet, if you will. That's what it is. I would love to look at this. This company has, and this is what Elon Musk is doing with his Neuralink. This is just a different company doing the same thing. The company has received investment funds from Saudi Arabia's NEOM project. That's fascinating. Now, I'd love to share spend time with this, but NEOM is Saudi Arabia's version of a line city, or in other words, a 15-minute city. Raise your hand if you've heard of 15-minute cities before. Have you? Okay, hands down. Have you heard of the NEOM project? Let's just watch a tiny bit of this, and I want you to get the connection of all these things together. Let's watch this.
Saudi Arabia's $1 trillion megacity project, The Line, is rapidly taking shape, bringing an ambitious vision of the future to life. Unlike any city the world has ever seen, The Line is designed to be a carbon-neutral, AI-powered metropolis, where high-speed trains replace cars, daily
Did you get that? Carbon neutral, AI powered, right? All bad stuff.
life is automated, and sustainability is embedded at its core. However, transforming this science fiction dream into reality comes with monumental challenges. Over the past 2 years, the world watched as construction surged forward, with drone footage revealing fleets of trucks and heavy machinery carving the desert to prepare for the city's foundation. As of 2020,
So I'm just telling you, this is an example of a 15-minute city. Everything is condensed into a very small space in a line where everything is accessible to people within a 15-minute radius. And I'm showing you this because I want you to know it's real. It's not just me making it up. They're actually building this. They have been building it for years. And this is the same model that's being promoted around the country and with people that are connected to the Trump administration, like Peter Thiel, which we'll talk about later. All right. So why? And I'll get a connection point. Let's see here. Right here, the 6G. 6G is coming with your cell phone. Let's look a little bit and listen to what 6G is about.
So what exactly is 6G, and how does it differ from 5G? Let's dive in. To understand 6G, we first need to recap what 5G brought to the table. 5G promised ultra-fast speeds, ultra-low latency, and the ability to connect millions of devices at once. It enabled technologies like smart cities, autonomous vehicles, and the Internet of Things. But as powerful as 5G is, it still has its limits. Enter 6G, which aims to go beyond just faster internet.
And 6G is supposed to be rolled out by 2030. Surprise, surprise, right?
It's not just an upgrade, it's a full transformation of our connectivity landscape. Let's start with the numbers. 5G networks offer speeds up to 10 gigabits, but 6G is expected to exceed that by 100 times, reaching speeds up to 1 terabit per second. This means downloading a full-length 4K movie in just seconds, or even enabling real-time 8K streaming with zero lag. Now let's talk about latency. Latency is the delay before data begins to transfer after an action. 5G reduced this to about 1 millisecond, but 6G is set to achieve sub-millisecond latency, basically, instantaneous data transfer. This kind of response time could make technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, and remote surgeries almost seamless.
Can you see that technology in the hands of someone who's controlling you as a digital twin? That instantaneous data transfer?
As if they're happening in real time. So how does 6G work? The core technologies that make 6G possible are completely new. First, 6G is expected to use terahertz waves. These are much higher frequencies than 5G's millimeter waves. Terahertz waves will allow for incredibly high data rates, but they don't travel as far and are more easily blocked.
I'll stop right there. Terahertz waves don't travel as far and they're easily blocked. Therefore, how do you control everyone? How can you control everyone if the waves don't go as far? You have to condense everyone into a small space. Hence the 15-minute city concept and the NEOM project with the line city we just saw in Saudi Arabia. You get control of people by condensing them into very small spaces. That's the plan. So when you hear people talk about 15-minute cities, it's a reality. They're planning the 6G rollout. The 6G rollout won't allow for people to live outside the boundaries of what they expect because they can't control you. That's the connection point I wanted to make. There's a lot more we could learn about 6G, including its advanced with AI involved with it, and also brain-computer interfaces that are a two-way street. And lastly, what can these tech giants do? They can certainly control financial transactions. So Trump signs stable coin law as crypto industry aims for mainstream adoption. U.S. President Trump signed a law to create a regulatory regime for a dollar-pegged cryptocurrency known as stablecoins. a milestone that could pave the way for the digital assets to become an everyday way to make payments. And of course, the Genius Act, this was before the Genius Act, and now the Genius Act has been passed. And it is not a good thing. It basically creates a central bank digital currency that's not controlled by the government, but controlled by private individuals, which is even worse than having something like that controlled by the government. So let me explain that. This is my executive summary of this talk, and this is regarding specifically the currency. Programmable central bank digital currency being barred in the United States by Trump, executive order, which happened, okay? All these are references, is nevertheless functionally realized with cryptocurrency stablecoins, specifically Tether, which are just as programmable and trackable as the central bank digital currency, only it will be consolidated in private hands of the GovCorp technate rulers. That would be the 10 toes of the 10 regions of Daniel 2. All right, worse, these will be pegged to a U.S. global reserve currency, thus impacting the world population, consistent with UN Sustainable Development Goals, again, despite surface rejection of UN SDGs. In other words, Trump administration rejects the UN SDGs, but they're implementing a functionally realized cryptocurrency, just like a central bank digital currency, and those will be pegged to energy credits like a carbon credit, which will essentially be the same as having a central bank digital currency. Okay, therefore, well, I shouldn't say therefore. Let's talk specifically about Trump. I do want you to know that Trump has an AI action plan. Winning the race, America's AI action plan, July 2025. Notice the Great Reset language: transformative, reshape, revolutionize. All right, Donald J. Trump. And notice Pillar 1, what's it going to do? It's going to accelerate AI. Well, we already know what accelerationism is. When you understand the accelerationist concept, it came from Karl Marx, Communist Manifesto, and the idea is to ramp up capitalism to the point where it's destroyed. You understand when you read things like this, those words just pop out at you. Accelerationism, this way, and it's accelerating what? AI. I've already discussed with you about the negative goal of AI. It's really Satan's tool to control everyone, everywhere. And what's Trump doing? He's accelerating that with his AI action plan. I'm not going to go through the action plan because of time. Trump and the New World Order. U.S. To join the British Commonwealth. Donald Trump suggests U.S. could join the British Commonwealth. I don't know if you guys remember this. That was a fascinating thing that came out. And the North American technate, interestingly enough, matches Trump's model to take Greenland and the Panama Canal, right? Interestingly enough, the Panama Canal was supposedly taken by U.S. Executives or businessmen, and guess who it was? It was Larry Fink. Larry Fink is a World Economic Forum board member. Okay, not a good guy to take control of the Panama Canal. And so I simply want you to understand that the technocracy, the technocrats, they want regions of the world to be governed as a technate. A technate is a region that essentially operates on a thermodynamic energy accounting instead of a money system. All resource and industry would be under this energy accounting system. So think of a global carbon tax. All right. So North America technate would encompass all of North America, Central America, the Caribbean, parts of South America, and Greenland. All right. So this is the concept that Trump is advancing or has advanced. And when we look at the British Commonwealth, you have to think of Cecil Rhodes and his New World Order, Cecil Rhodes, and think of a Rhodes Scholar. Well, that's the Cecil Rhodes. He was a rich English guy who wanted to keep the Anglo-American establishment going, or actually wanted to take America back from the Americans and put it under the English or Anglo establishment, under what's called the New World Order. This was his dream. And in his memoirs, he had the vision of ending all wars and recovering the United States This is in his Confessions, the Confessions of Faith, Cecil Rhodes, 1877. And so this always is suspect when you see things like Trump wanting to join the British Commonwealth. That should raise a lot of red flags. Notice AI's Education Summit for the Future was a UN agenda that wants to harness digital tools and resources to expand access, improve learning, and increase capacities to navigate future and avoid the digital divide. In other words, the United Nations advancing AI training for children at school. Well, Trump comes along, advancing artificial intelligence, educating for American youth, essentially doing the same thing. In other words, what Trump is doing is actually facilitating what the World Economic Forum and the United Nations are saying should be done. Trump's doing it. They say it, Trump does it. But it's not connected by the average conservative because of the belief that Trump is going to bring the death blow to the New World Order. That's, again, controlled opposition. Trump's big, beautiful bill. Notice from biometricupdate.com, I highly recommend you reference this particular website in the future. It keeps track of the biometric things going on. Trump's mega bill expands biometric surveillance, all right, in the name of fighting illegal aliens. It would codify a vision of the national security state where biometric surveillance, AI, and immigration enforcement converge at unprecedented scale. It's presented as an anti-terror or trafficking measure, but critics argue the systems normalize mass biometric surveillance with minimal oversight and a 10-year moratorium on any AI-related regulations. So they basically, the big beautiful bill, let AI go for 10 years free with no state being able to regulate it. That's what the technocrats want. Why they want it? So they could have total control. So I expect this, according to their model, to happen relatively quickly. That's right, Neil Holman says it, free and unfettered AI with no protections, no ethics required. That's what the House Republicans want. What could possibly go wrong? Facetious, right? The biometricupdate.com, I believe. All right, so the golden age begins. I got to see if this is out here. July 4th, War Room Transmission, America's golden age begins. Remember where that phrase golden age comes from? Alice Bailey, all right? Just, that's a buzzword you should pay attention to when you see the golden age concept. Okay, let's quickly look at this. I'm going to start at minute 340 of this to go to the end, and we'll be done with Trump after I make a quick comment on Israel. 340 is my time.
So terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live.
The left opens borders, incentivizes homelessness, and lets violent criminals walk. Why? It's to get you to accept more tyranny so that you feel safe. And for many, it's working. The same digital ID surveillance state that many were opposed to just a few years ago is quickly taking shape. Under the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's previous regulations, it was illegal to build a satellite that could identify individual people. But Trump changed that in 2018. Albedo Space is now creating satellites with cameras that can capture images with high detail down to 10 centimeters or 4 inches. They are called VLEO satellites, very low Earth orbit, and are only 100 miles above our heads. An eye in the sky that can see you in your home. Albedo Space is funded in part by Bill Gates' investment firm Breakthrough Energy Ventures. ICE is now the home to the highest paid feds, and their new biometric surveillance tech, the Inmate Recognition and Identification System, IRIS, and its mobile counterpart, Morris, allow low IQ ICE goons the ability to positively identify individuals in seconds from virtually anywhere. The police state is coming fast, and without any pushback, everyone will need to be registered into the biometric checkpoint carbon tax system.
Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly.
Greg Reese reporting.
So, in the name of your safety, right, let all the bad guys in so that we can bring the solution, the biometric surveillance state that has to control everybody. Let me quickly mention Israel. I have a whole presentation on this, which I'm obviously not going to do right now. I simply want to say that Trump accelerates toward Ezekiel 38 and 39 regards to Israel. And Israel is prophesied in Ezekiel 38 to be a land that is restored from the sword, living securely. How many of them? All of them. All right. In other words, and then here we go. They live in unwalled villages. They rest securely, living without walls, having no bars or gates. This prophesies a time yet future where Israel will dominate the region. All right. That doesn't happen. It's not that way now, but Trump has pushed, in the events of Trump's administrations, have pushed Israel toward this rapidly in comparison to past years. Think of the Iran situation with Trump, bombing the Iranian nuclear facility. That's an example of how this works. Also, Trump accelerates toward Ezekiel 38:13 with the Abraham Accords. 38:13, Sheba and Dedan, which is Saudi Arabia. All right, and the merchants of Tarshish with all its villages will say to you, have you come to capture spoil? Have you assembled your company to seize plunder and carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods and capture great spoil? The point here is Saudi Arabia is not listed in the attacking company in Ezekiel 38 prophecy, will not participate in the Gog-Magog invasion. Why? Possibly Trump is setting up the Abraham Accords. Now, Saudi Arabia is a key player in the Abraham Accords. I could spend a whole hour or two on this topic, which I don't have time for. Now, below, I'm going to get into, starting here with Elon Musk, and I'm getting to several of these tech people in my last half hour. All of them are broadly described, I broadly describe them as the alt-right, or the alternative right. They're right because they're quote-unquote around the Republican Party, specifically Trump and the MAGA movement. But they're alternate. They're not who the right actually is defined as, all right? So this is important. Now, let's quickly look at this video. I say quickly, it's kind of a long video. It's about 4 minutes long, and there's a little bit of music that's a little irritating. I do apologize about that, but listen to what the hero is the villain. The hero, Elon Musk, come to the rescue for Doge, right? And save us all from waste, fraud, and abuse. But look, actually, he's the villain. So what happens is you're going to see World Economic Forum former head Klaus Schwab say what he wants for the future, and then you're going to come along and see how Elon Musk is providing that. Pay close attention to the very end of the clip, and we'll get this going right now.
I would like to make some betting with you. When we meet for the 20th, I hope I will have the pleasure still to be invited for the meeting. When we meet for the 20th Governance Summit, you will use an app like Uber, but not anymore to call some driver, but an automatically guided car, a self-driven car, will come to your hotel or wherever you are and will bring you to the airport.
This would just be the Tesla network. You just literally open the Tesla app and summon a car, and we send a car to pick you up and take you.
And then you have the second big dimension of technological change. It relates to robots, to drones, combined with artificial intelligence.
Everything we've developed for our cars, the batteries, power electronics, the advanced motors, gearboxes, the software, the AI inference computer, it all actually applies to a humanoid robot. So, and what can it do? It'll be able to do anything you want. So it can be a teacher, babysit your kids, it can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks, whatever you can think of. It will differ of any kind.
This will not be only taxis which will be absent. We will see a trend to an economy on demand. And at the end, you will have an app for each of our needs, but also for our public needs, for our needs related to government services.
Twitter is effectively an accelerant to an idea I've had for a long time, which is called sort of X, the everything app.
Yeah.
Which is to have a platform that is so useful that you find it is essential, incredibly useful.
Another bet which I would make with you, when we come probably not at the 20th, but already at the 10th or 15th meeting, we will pay, not necessarily with bitcoins, but with other, what they call cryptocurrencies. So the impact of virtual currencies and so on the banking system, we only start now to understand.
It's in full swing. Elon Musk revealing his plans to revolutionize payments. All right, Ashley, can you explain exactly what he's doing?
He likes to use that term revolutionize, and this term revolutionize payments on his platforms this year, he says, confirming rumors basically of a plot to replace PayPal. You're talking about Bitcoin. Musk has confirmed that SpaceX owns a bunch of Bitcoin and that he still owns a lot of Bitcoin rival Dogecoin, if you remember, a cryptocurrency that Musk once said he wanted to make the currency of the earth.
Just to give you one example of what I said before, the systems innovation. If we make progress, what we are doing at the moment in treating cancer, in replacing body parts, this will again prolong life expectancies by a number of years. And actually in Switzerland now, every second baby which is born is expected to have a life of more than 100 years.
I mean, everything that you've ever experienced in your whole life, the smell, emotions, all of those are electrical signals. So it's kind of weird to think that your entire life experience is distilled down to electrical signals from neurons, but that is in fact the case. That's at least what all the evidence points to.
Do you think there will be a world in the next couple of decades where it's hundreds of millions of people have Neuralinks?
Yeah, I do. Death is fundamentally the loss of information, the loss of memory.
So if we can store them as accurately as possible, we basically achieve a kind of immortality.
Yeah. If you could run a thought experiment, what if you were disintegrated painlessly and then reintegrated a moment later, like teleportation, I guess, provided there's no information loss. The fact that your one body was disintegrated is irrelevant.
Achieving immortality. Now, why is that relevant? Well, who was put up by President Trump as the key guy to work the Doge system, right? It was Elon Musk. That's the nature of Elon Musk, simply fulfilling the globalist agenda put out by the World Economic Forum former leader. Now, Elon Musk was a young global leader, part of World Economic Forum's group. I'm not going to show that because of time. But let's go on and talk a little bit more about Musk and Tesla. First of all, Musk is involved heavily, as you know, with the global satellite surveillance systems, Starlink and SpaceX. That's what those are. Thousands of satellites that they've launched and continue to launch. And remember what zero emissions, zero carbon is. It means the death of half the global population, if not more, perhaps 2/3 for that sustainable generation. Well, if you look at Elon Musk and his net zero housing, Musk's sustainable home project revolves around the concept of net zero energy housing. All right, that's your net zero concept. Musk's Tesla capitalizing on carbon credit sales. All right. How here Tesla made great profits from regulatory credits. So if you look down here, Tesla, the industry leader in electric vehicles, has made enormous profits by taking advantage of the carbon reduction trend. As of the fiscal year 2021, Tesla's carbon credit revenue worth $1.46 billion, accounted for 3% of its total revenue. Musk has been making money hand over fist with carbon credits. That's supposedly opposed by the Trump administration, but yet Musk has been doing this for a long time. And that's just the nature of who he is. He's a globalist. He's a satanic agenda, technocrat, communist. take a look at Musk's ultimate goal with Doge: to AI the government. All right, here's Patrick Wood in his presentation. The hijacking of national data. Doge was not about saving money or efficiency. Doge was planned by Musk, Lutnick, and Trump. I'll talk about Lutnick in just a few minutes. We know about Trump. Musk was on the outside of Doge, not its director. I'll show you that shortly. The data assault was orchestrated by Musk and Thiel. Peter Thiel, I'll get to later. Shock and awe to spring the data immediately. Government workers sacked according to Rage, which means replace all government employees. This is something that J.D. Vance advocates, and Curtis Yarvin, which we saw earlier. Through September, there was 109 Doge teams established. AI spread to all government agencies. Trump awarded $319 million to Palantir to roll it all up. That's the Peter Thiel company, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So let's quickly, conceived Doge, conceived by Howard Lutnick. Let's take a look at that. Actually, I already have him up on a different. I tried to preset him. Let's see here. Hang on. Get back to this. That link didn't work as fast as I wanted it to. Let's try that again. Here it is. There's Howard Lutnick. Here he is, talking about the creation of Doge.
I flew down to Brownsville, Texas, right? And I met with Elon, and we spent 2 hours together. And I told him we were going to create the department Doge, right? And he did exactly that. He started laughing and he was happy. He goes, no, seriously. And I said, no, it's going to be called Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, but we're definitely calling it Doge for you. And
why is that? Why are they laughing about this? Because of the Dogecoin, the cryptocurrency that, I don't know how that happened. Cryptocurrency that Elon Musk was heavily favoring. All right. So we'll stop right there. I don't need to go through that anymore. Lutnick came to Musk and said, hey, we're going to create the Doge department. This is how it was created. So Howard Lutnick is a billionaire, now the Secretary of Commerce. So the origin of Doge came from that discussion that we saw there. Let's look at whether the government is being AI'd or not. OpenAI releases a chatbot GPT-Gov for U.S. government agencies. Previously, the House Budget Committee holds roundtable to assess implications of AI for U.S. economy and the government. So this was happening prior to Doge, all right? And Musk admitted that at the Milken conference, AI will replace the bloated, inefficient federal government. Keyword, inefficient. That's a technocratic concept to replace inefficiencies, but they're replacing it with the bad thing, which is the AI. And now we have AI.gov. This is later, AI.gov, the digital Leviathan goes live here on June 18th in this is Patrick Wood speaking. His Substack article, he shared analysis of the leaked AI.gov documents, expressing concern of what it portended. Today, July 23, 2025, the digital Leviathan has officially gone live. What's unfolding before our eyes isn't just the launch of a government website, it's the operational birth of the most sophisticated technocratic control system in human history, moving at a pace that has left even the most ardent accelerationists stunned. So that's what Doge was all about, all right? And when you look down, let's see here. Doge, Musk and Doge, the court statement from Joshua Fisher, director of the Office of Administration in the state of New Mexico versus Elon Musk, February 2025. I want you to see point number 6. This is a court document. I'm going to go down to point number 6. This is testimony by the man I just talked about. The U.S. Doge Service is a component of the Executive Office of the President. The U.S. Doge Service, temporary organization within the U.S. Doge Service. Both are separate from the White House office. Mr. Musk is an employee in the White House office. He is not an employee of the U.S. Doge Service or U.S. Doge Service temporary organization. Mr. Musk is not the U.S. Doge Service administrator. It's a court document from the director of the Office of Administration. Amy Gleason was the administrator of Doge, and we've looked at her before. Right here, this initiative headed by Amy Gleason, the administrator of the Department of Government Efficiency. All right, and she worked, look at this, as the predecessor of Doge from 2018 to 2021 during the first Trump administration, where she played a key role in the House Coronavirus Task Force team. So I just want you to understand that this system was created long before we saw it, and it was created by people that are not friendly toward the U.S. citizen. Now, let's look at the total savings of Doge. This is a dated link. You can see the date here, 2025, May 7. Data reveals Musk delivered only 0.25% of the promised federal spending cut. So we're all happy about the U.S. aid exposure and the cuts of this and cuts of that. This is what Musk promised, $2 trillion. This is what he has produced in actual verifiable cuts to our government. All right. You can go to this website yourself. You can see the numbers. It's called muskwatch.org, if I'm not mistaken. That's the name of it. And the X app, of course, the Everything app, of course. Musk wants the X Everything app to launch this year. All right, this is and Visa is its first partner. It's going to be what he said is an essential tool for people's everyday lives, just like the people in China use WeChat, which is based on a social credit system. So that's Musk for you. Trump elevated Larry Ellison. Remember him? This is a great article. I like the title of this. What just happened? Trump announcement of the Stargate AI infrastructure project. There's Larry Ellison right there, next to Sam Altman of OpenAI. And I can't remember his name, but we'll see it in a minute. But this is day 2 of the second Trump administration, in which case these guys they appeared at the White House with Trump to announce the creation of a joint AI infrastructure project called Stargate. All right. So Stargate is heading toward as you can see here, artificial super intelligence to be able to solve the issues of mankind. That's religious humanism. And that's what Trump has been promoting. What does Larry Ellison want to do? He wants to unify all data. Actually, we saw that already. Let's look at the video of this just a little bit. Listen to what he wants. This is in a World Government Summit. This last year, I believe, and he's speaking to British former, I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, you'll see. But this is Larry Ellison saying about what he wants to do with all the data and AI.
The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. Everyone talks about the AI model, and they are astonishing. But how do you provide a context? I want to ask questions about my country. What's going on in my country? What's happening to my farmers? I need to give it my climate data. Now, it's probably.
Okay, so I'm not going to play the rest of this. Do you see the idea? He wants all countries to give all their data to him, Oracle, so that AI can manage it. That's the purpose. All right. And so, again, this is where Trump has been elevating. And so he's all about surveillance. I'm going to stop that one. Let's go to, let's just quickly look at this as a addendum to this. This isn't specifically about Larry Ellison, but Larry Ellison is very in favor of the total surveillance. And I want you to see the smart meters level of how this gets down into our own homes.
The idea that, for example, you can get smart fridges now. So every time I open my fridge, it will register somewhere how long I've opened it for. It will then be able to, through amazing algorithms, be able to say, well, you clearly took a smart oven that will detect whether I've cooked a pie or a chicken. This is a really strange place that we've ended up in, right? I mean, data protection, what happened to that?
Well, that's just a joke. Honestly, it's a complete joke, data protection. There's no protection. And, we could go on. Smart TVs that are literally watching us watching them. And this is happening. And even, those cute little Roomba vacuum cleaners, those robot vacuum cleaners, they're mapping out your home and they send that map up to the cloud. There's so much. I mean, all of us who have a smartphone, smart again, we are being tracked, we are being listened to. I would never have the Amazon Echo or the Alexa, because that is absolutely a spy in your own home. Again, it's recording you on a regular basis. They've even been used, certainly in America, they've been used in court cases for murders, etc., because they are recording things. So we're just being recorded and watched all over the place. As you say, if you have a smart fridge or a smart oven or whatever, all this data can be used against you later on if you want life insurance, if you want health insurance. Doctors can get hold of it, and decide whether you could live or not. We're creating a real problem for ourselves later on, if not.
All right, so this is the idea of total surveillance, which Larry Ellison is all in favor of, even having Oracle watch you in the bathroom. All right, we're not going to go to that link because of time, but this is an example of a panopticon, the idea of the warden having constant view of all inmates. Is happening electronically. This is the panopticon concept, where the warden who sits here can see inside every cell. Well, with all the data that we're feeding the AI cloud, if you will, we are allowing ourselves to be managed just like that. So let's look at Sam Altman, co-founder of OpenAI with Elon Musk, who now is Trump's new friend. We'll talk about that. We're only going to watch 35 seconds of this clip.
In cities around the world, big metallic orbs are scanning people's eyeballs and handing out a new cryptocurrency as a reward. From New York to Tokyo, these scanning stations look like a scene out of a sci-fi movie.
Did you get that? The cryptocurrency was a reward. You give your biometric data, and you get a money reward, but it's a crypto reward.
Where humans trade their personal biometric data for the right to participate in a new kind of modern economy. This is WorldCoin.
What it's trying to do is to have a validated identity for every person in the world to connect your identity to an address on the blockchain.
For a long time, most people didn't know that Sam Altman, the man behind OpenAI and ChatGPT, had a crypto side project.
Okay, so WorldCoin is his crypto side project. All right, and Sam Altman is Trump's new friend, as we see. Sam Altman says he's changed his mind on Donald Trump. Remember, he was a leftist before, but now he has become one of Trump's buddies, just like the rest of them. Peter Thiel, moving on quickly. Peter Thiel, here is Peter Thiel. I'm proud to be gay. Tech investor Peter Thiel tells GOP convention. So he's a huge GOP donor. He's considered part of the alt-right, in my estimation. He considers himself a Christian, which is very important, because he's connecting all of his activities to Christianity, and he loves to speak about the Antichrist. He gives lectures on the Antichrist, especially with the Acts 17 Collective. But I want you to hear who he is for a minute before we learn a little bit more about him. I'm going to give this, is about a 3-minute video. It's a little long for this time, but it is very important. There is a little language in here that's very off. It's probably not suitable for young children. I don't see any young children in here, but just so you know, the language is a little bit graphic. He is a transhumanist, just so you understand. We've already defined transhumanism and where it goes. It goes to the immortality place, what Satan wants, but yet he's calling himself a Christian. Listen to him in this interview.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so, it's always, I don't know,
radically solve.
Transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses, and a transsexual is someone where you change your, I don't know, penis into a vagina, and we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And okay, we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind.
Did you get that? Change your heart, change your mind. That's very Christian language. You hear that? All right, but he's connecting it to transhumanism, going beyond the sex changes and beyond cross-dressing into the transhumanism. So he's merging these concepts together in this.
And change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul, and you need to transform your whole self. And so
right, but the other wait. Sorry. I generally agree with what I think is your belief that religion should be a friend to science and ideas of scientific progress. I think any idea of divine providence has to encompass the fact that we have progressed and achieved and done things that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. But it still also seems like, the promise of Christianity in the end is you get the perfected body and the perfected soul through God's grace, and the person who tries to do it on their own with a bunch of machines is likely to end up as a dystopian character.
He's correct, right? But he's talking about Peter Thiel. That's what Peter Thiel wants, is to do that through transhumanism. I'm going to stop it there. That's who Peter Thiel is. Again, he is part of this X17 collective, which is, there he is there, very great reset language, transform, transcend, redefine for our collective future. That's communism. And there he is speaking in these events. And that's just Peter Thiel for you. He's part of the alt-right, claims to be Christian. Acts in this Act 17 stands for acknowledging Christ in technology and society. And so the case is that the PayPal mafia group, the Silicon Valley, is turning Christian. Well, it's not Christian, all right, but they're labeling it Christian, and they're gathering lots of Christian followers, all right. So Peter Thiel and the Trump Greenland connection. Peter Thiel backed startup that wanted to buy Greenland is thrilled that Trump wants to buy Greenland. There's Peter Thiel and Trump together. And the idea is he's pushing the idea of Praxis, which is the network state, as you can see, which is nothing more than a 15-minute city that's named Praxis in Greenland. It's a model for what's to come. We won't talk about that further. Praxis, here it is. The objective is to remove all regulation and allow tech oligarchs the freedom to do whatever they like. These freedom cities, they're called freedom cities. They're not freedom cities. They are the Thiel model of the network state, which is to control everyone in a 15-minute city. It's really the dry run or the prototype of what's coming. So Greg Reese, Palantir and Trump, this is a very fascinating video. We've got to watch this. Let's do it right now.
Both these AI systems use Palantir's advanced surveillance technology to track every person's phone records, social media, and movement patterns.
And that's Peter Thiel. Palantir is a Peter Thiel company, which I'll show you in a minute.
Palantir's tech is used by the U.S. military and local police departments. It is the premier tool for mass surveillance. When running for his first term, Trump was saying he would implement a biometric tracking system.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. We will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel donated $1.25 million to that campaign, and he donated $15 million to J.D. Vance's 2022 Ohio Senate campaign. Palantir has significant ties to the CIA, starting in 2004 when the CIA's venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel, gave Palantir $2 million. Palantir's Gotham platform was developed by and for the CIA. Initially, the CIA was Palantir's sole customer for several years. Palantir is the CIA's surveillance tool. And now, Palantir is to create a system for the federal government that will monitor every American under an AI system, linking Social Security, the IRS, and immigration into one centralized system. It will be using its Gotham software, developed by the CIA, to track and condition human behavior. Most of yesterday's alternative media support this. For those who can still think clearly, this is as dystopian as it gets. But there are many fools who are content that the fascist society being put into place will not be woke. But don't be surprised if it comes with a carbon tax and an American version of a social credit system.
All right. So Peter Thiel, again, part of the alt-right. He's connected with NATO. He's connected with ICE. Let's look at Peter Thiel just briefly. He's part of the Bilderberg Steering Committee. You can see that here, Bilderberg meeting. You can see here the steering committee list. There, Peter Thiel is president of Thiel Capital LLC. He is Alex Karp, his associate, is also on the steering committee. Former chair and CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, is on that same committee. We've seen him a little bit already. And at their annual meeting this last year, notice the topics to talk about one of them was depopulation and migration. All right, key things that these people talk about, as we have discussed. Look at Palantir itself. Why the name? Secretive data company Palantir just officially revealed its plans to go public. Here's why. It's named after an all-powerful seeing stone in the Lord of the Rings. So that's what the Palantir was in the Lord of the Rings, this idea of a mystical, all-powerful seeing stone used to surveil its enemies with limitless knowledge. All right. Fascinating that he would name his Palantir company after such a thing. Okay, Palantir's selection as a chief vendor for the project, meaning the Doge project, was driven by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. According to the government officials, at least 3 Doge members formerly worked at Palantir, while 2 others had worked at companies funded by Thiel, an investor and founder of Palantir. Like here, in an interview last year with Mr. Karp, Palantir's chief executive said the company's role was, quote, finding of hidden things by sifting through data. Remember, Satan is not omniscient, hence he needs to obtain what? All the data. Enter in Palantir, enter in Larry Ellison of Oracle, enter in, ultimately, in this case, Donald Trump. Let's quickly look at Marc Andreessen. I'm very close to the end. Marc Andreessen, you can see from Britannica here, who was he? American software engineer. Netscape was created by Andreessen, and its main objective was to enable individuals and companies around the globe to exchange information. And Marc Andreessen says half of his time goes to helping Trump at Mar-a-Lago. This was before the last election. But let's look at what Andreessen says in his Techno-Optimist Manifesto, which is why, remember at the beginning I said there's the techno MAGA people, and then there's the regular MAGA people, and there's a division, and the techno people are over the regular people. And here's an example of how this works. So this is Marc Andreessen, and this is his manifesto. Technology is the glory of human ambition. We properly glorified this. We can advance to a far superior way of living and being. We have the will to, it's time to be techno-optimists. There is no material problem that cannot be solved with more technology. Remember, accelerationism uses technology to destroy capitalism. We had a problem, so we invented. We had a problem, so we invented. We had a problem. This is humanism. This is man solving all his problems. And yes, it's good for humans to invent things to help people with problems. I understand that. But I want you to get the flavor of this. You'll see at the end. We believe the market economy is what? Evolutionary. and adaptive. All right, combine technology and markets, you can get what Nick Land has termed the techno-capital machine, the engine of perpetual material creation. All right, growth and abundance. What's that sound like? It sounds like accelerationism. And this is from the manifesto. This is Dark Enlightenment. This is Karl Marx. We believe in accelerationism. Remember, it came from Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto. The conscious and deliberate propulsion of technological development to ensure the fulfillment of law of accelerating returns, to ensure the techno-capital upward spiral continues forever. So this is who Mark Andreessen is, who advises President Trump. J.D. Vance, of course, advancing the retire all government employees motto, which came from Curtis Yarvin. We've talked about him. Sounds like destroying the old and bringing in the new. Sounds to me like Alice Bailey. Sounds a lot like Build Back Better. I find it interesting that the Build Back Better acronym is the same as the Big Beautiful Bill. I do not know if there's a connection there. It's just something that I have thought I'd share it with you. The last one before my conclusions is Bill Gates. Now, Bill Gates is an exception to the alt-right. In other words, he's never been considered right, but let me just throw him in for fun, as he's been conversing with Donald Trump many times over this past couple years. He's got this 50 in 5. The UN Gates Foundation 50 in 5 campaign aims to roll out digital public infrastructure in 50 countries by 2028, because remember, Agenda 2030 is by 2030. This is Bill Gates, and what sounds like he's doing is exactly what Trump's guys are doing. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. 55 in campaign is an agenda concocted by a coalition of unelected globalists to accelerate technocratic control. There's that word, accelerate, through digital ID, center-based digital currency, and the massive data sharing perspective. There's Larry Ellison. There's Elon Musk. And they're, of course, working in conjunction with the Rockefeller Foundation. And so if you look at this, I think it's just a fun headline here. Bill Gates is going to kill you one way or another. Bill Gates given the green light to secretly spray RNA on food and products in America. Remember, the left's fascination with DNA, and of course the RNA technology is connected to the DNA technology. Bill Gates is going to try to get you one way or another. Okay, now, last thing. In case you thought you could escape it, floss-based vaccination targets gingival sulcus for mucosal and systemic immunization. This is how they show here a flat tape dental floss can deliver vaccines. Did you know that? You can get vaccines through your dental floss. This is the abstract of a academic article. You can see the link I have here. This is when I say they're trying to get you one way or the other, they're doing everything they can to get people, all right? That's what Satan wants. He's a murderer from the beginning. All right, conclusions. And then I go to the what do we do about it all. Let's get this thing done. It's 1 minute review for people who've seen my presentations before, but this reflects the accelerationist mentality. This is from World Government Summit about 3 years ago, 2022.
The fourth industrial revolution.
The power of artificial intelligence.
Creating the world of tomorrow.
Our aim is to shape the future of government through education, health, technology, sustainability, and environment.
People's creativity, people's dreams, people's energy. This year, right now, this minute, is really the best time in the history of the world to do something.
Collective thinking, collective mind, collective knowledge for humanity.
Let's work together. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get this thing done.
There's accelerationism right there. Harrison Ford. Let's get this thing done. The countdown begins. All right. This is all for them, for these globalists. It's a time-sensitive matter. They are rushing to accomplish the goals by 2030. Remember, I'm not saying they will accomplish the goals, but they're trying to, and you should understand that they're doing all that they can to make it happen. The Trump administration, with the people that are around him, the tech Silicon Valley giants, they are pushing this agenda forward very rapidly. You can say Trump doesn't know about it, he's being used, or you can say he's part of it. In a sense, it doesn't matter. It's happening anyway. That's the point I'm trying to make. And so Musk and Thiel are not interested in restricting state power, though they may say otherwise. Instead, they wish to move the state from the public to the private sector and expand its power once sufficiently privatized. This sounds like capitalism when we talk about privatization, but remember, it's accelerationist stakeholder capitalism, not the traditional capitalism that we all have grown up with. So let's move on and finish this out. People like Thiel, Andreessen, and Musk are serious. They want to implement the Dark Enlightenment and are hell-bent on establishing GovCorp technates. Their oligarch network is indistinguishable from the Trump administration. Currently, the most powerful nation on earth is in their hands. There you go. That's the sort of the conclusion. Dr. Erwin Lutzer of Moody Church years ago had a presentation, Things That Must Come. These things must come. All right. How do we handle these things? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. And so my last words before we get to the what to do about it: be sober of spirit, be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. As his time nears, he will become exceedingly angry as he knows his time is short. Examine everything carefully. Hold fast to that which is good. Abstain from every form of evil. And that's why I'm sharing with you this in a prophecy update, because the spirit, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Revelation 19, verse 4, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what should be done? What action should be taken? Before I get to that, which I'm going to do directly next, let's gain some perspective before we get too discouraged. Romans 12:21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. We need to keep the perspective of God in our minds and hearts when evil advances to the point where it seems overwhelming to us. We need to not be that's a command. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And so keep that in mind. God's power is stronger than Satan's power. But remember, these things must come. The hour and power of darkness that Jesus spoke to his adversaries in the garden that came at that time in history is coming one more time again. And I will remind you of you can say, what does this have to do? Well, how do we practice that in the gospel? Remember this, there's some out there at that table. This is a Bible tract that I created to go along with the technocracy brochure that came from Patrick Wood. Please get one of those before you leave if you haven't done so already. Okay, let's go to the action items. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Now, I've got about 48 minutes, 50 minutes to finish this up. So it's going to go pretty fast, even though it sounds like a long time. I'm going to rush through this. First of all, take action. 1 Chronicles 12:32. You're all familiar with this verse. Of the sons of Issachar, men who what? Understood the times. Now, look at this. With knowledge of what Israel should do. Okay, this is just kind of stuck there in the middle of this genealogical list. Teaching principle I want to bring action of what one should do is predicated upon what? Knowledge and understanding. Got it? People always ask, what should I do? Well, you first have to what? Understand what's going on with knowledge. If you have this understanding with knowledge, you will know what to do. Inherently. All right? Remember the Great Reset, understanding the Great Reset. Remember, a people without understanding are ruined. God says, or Dave, the writer of Psalm 119, give me understanding that I may observe your law. From your precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. I told you earlier that I'm going to present to you a false way, not as a way that you should follow, but I'm showing it to you to expose Satan's schemes, that we might avoid that false way and instead observe God's law. So the point is, understanding is actually important. That's why I had to do the first part of this first. Some people get irritated with me for sharing the first part. Sometimes I share the first part and there's no time to bring the action points, and they leave angry at me for not giving us what we should do. I'm telling you, you don't even need to know what to do in a specific sense. if you understand what's going on, you'll know what to do in many cases. Let me give you an example. If you understand that the COVID shots were mRNA technology set to connect you to the internet or kill you, if you understood that and had knowledge about it, you would know what to do, wouldn't you? You wouldn't take it. That's an example of how knowledge gives you understanding about what to do and what not to do. That's just one example. Many other examples could be given. So I'm going to first say what not to do. Number one, do not give way to fear or panic. I already told you this. One lady in a presentation, maybe I said this last night at a presentation, one lady in Birmingham, when I gave a presentation like this, she said, "This blank scares me to death," and she got up and walked out. That's not a biblical response. It's just not, all right? Don't give way to fatalism. There's nothing I can do about it anyways. They've already got all my data, you say. This is the syndrome. It's the most common response I hear, or one of the most common responses. And so what do? They just ignore or dismiss everything that has been said because there's nothing they can do about it anyway. Remember what the principle I shared already was at the very beginning. Is there a response for the Christian? The Christian, yes, it's to expose, it's to resist, it's to stand firm, right? We have a job here to do. Let's do it and not dismiss it. Okay, so it says this is not a biblical response. It goes against multiple clear scriptures and biblical principles. It fails to factor God into the equation and into your life, and it fails to factor the restrainer. 2 Thessalonians 2, 7 and 8. Paul's writing, "Let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of loss is revealed, and the son of destruction who opposes exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship." It says, "Do you not remember while I was still with you, I was telling you these things, and you know what restrains him now, so that in his time he will be revealed. But the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way." Well, who is this restrainer? Many theologians will disagree and argue about who that restrainer is. And so I'll simply give you my opinion. The restrainer is the Holy Spirit. But remember, the Holy Spirit lives in the believer. And so the believer acts as a restraining force in the society. That is our job. We should restrain evil in our society because the Spirit of God lives in us. And that's what the Spirit does. All right? It says, then that lawless one will be revealed. So, but until that lawless one is revealed, what's our job? Restraining evil. It fails to take into account, when I say it, remember, it's this fatalistic response. It fails to take into account the impact your decisions, actions, and inactions have on others who may not be saved or who may not be as strong in their convictions as you are, specifically the younger generation. So here's an example. Pastors, up in the pulpit, talking about Googling this and Googling that, right? What are they doing? They're not warning the younger generation who may not be as secure in their faith and understanding. They're just opening that door to this Google world that takes people literally right into this global depopulation agenda. So I think that especially the older generation needs to pay close attention to how they deal with technology. All right. Do not give way to ambivalence, indifference, or apathy, all unbiblical concepts. Do not dismiss the matter because everyone thought Hitler was the Antichrist, all right? That's a common argument. I hear that so many times. If that's what people thought, they weren't reading their Bible very closely, all right? That's just my response to that. If they thought that Hitler was the Antichrist, they had not understood the scripture very well. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because false prophets have predicted wrongly the time of Christ's return, all right, does not mean that the topic of discussion of biblical study on the topic of Christ's second coming will itself inherently is itself inherently dangerous, somehow misguided use of the believer's time. In other words, when you start talking about end time things and things about the Great Reset leading to this Antichrist or leading to a beast system, people say, they've been saying that for years. I'm suggesting to you that don't let that response stop you from discussing the topic. All right. It is similar to this. Don't be a Christian who parrots an ungodly message. Quoted in 2 Peter 3:4, where is the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers fell asleep, all continues just as it was from the beginning of creation. I hear this concept coming out of the mouths of Christians. You base on a 6,000 year Earth history, 50 years is 0.8% of the time. So if less than 1% of the time is remaining, then 50 plus years could still go by. And remember, the book of Revelation states in verse 1 that it was the revelation of things that must what? Soon or shortly take place. And in the second to last verse of the Bible, Jesus says, behold, I am coming what? Quickly. Okay? So, in other words, if you're talking about prophecy and things to come, things that are building into this Antichrist beast system, people say, people have been talking about that for decades or hundreds of years. Well, it doesn't mean it's irrelevant. It's still coming, right? Don't let that dissuade you from discussion. If it's in the scripture, it's worth talking about. Do exercise the relevant biblical principles that Christians ought to practice. So I had this up earlier. Be a restrainer, stand firm, resist in the evil day, expose the darkness, seek to live in freedom, and preach the gospel. The Bible references are right here. I'm not going to take the time to go through all of them. We've already talked about Satan's schemes. The point is, as I've already said, don't fall into fatalistic complacency. It's notably absent as a biblical principle regarding the rise of the fourth beast. So I like this verse, 1 Timothy 4, 1 through 6. The Spirit explicitly says, in the latter times, there are such things as the latter times, right? Some will fall away from the faith, paying attention to deceitful spirits and what? Doctrines of demons. All right. Now, if you go down to verse 6, here's what Paul says. In pointing out these things to the brothers, you will be a good servant of Jesus Christ. What was he doing? He was pointing out these doctrines of demons and the warning that in the latter times, people will fall away from the faith. Point these out to people. That's what Paul did. All right. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to skip through some of this. I just need to let me, I guess, say this. When we look at, if you were trying to speak to a non-Christian, one of the key ways, there's books written about this by people that you well know. What's one of the best evidences that Jesus Christ is who he says he is, meaning that he's God, that he's our Savior, that that he's the Savior of the world? What evidence do we point to? We look to fulfilled prophecy. Is that right? Right? We look for all the prophecies of the coming of Christ that in many of them. And when they were fulfilled, we say, look, there's the evidence. There's what we see. So what I'm suggesting to you is, let me read this or I'm going to get my words mixed up. Since fulfilled prophecy regarding the Lord's first coming is key testimony that Jesus Christ is God and our only Savior, then we should not be just as then should we not be just as interested in prophecy surrounding the Lord's second coming? The things we now see demonstrate in real time that the Bible is true, and we can therefore find great encouragement and hope. We also find in this a solid base to stand on from which we can speak to others about the person and work of Christ. After all, as I said already in Revelation 19, verse 10, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So I want to suggest to you that the things that I'm talking about today are showing how prophecy is yet going to be fulfilled. These are evidences that the Bible's true and that the word and testimony of Jesus is true. And we can use it as a gospel connection to other people. And so I'm going to be very brief with most of these. Spiritual action, I'm going to first start with what are the spiritual things we should do besides the things I just listed above. Number one, obviously, we need to be saved people, right? And preach the gospel to others, being able to use the issues of the day as the basis for your effort. Like John, in John, the Gospel of John, he preached that Jesus, the Word, became flesh in verse 14, right? And the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Remember that verse? Well, why is that significant? While at the same time, he point blank dismantled the Gnostic heresy. The Gnostic heresy was the key heresy during John's life when he was writing that gospel. And the Gnostic heresy said that anything in the flesh or anything that's physical is evil. That's one of the tenets of the Gnostic heresy. Do you see what John did by saying the Word became flesh? He destroys the Gnostic heresy and affirms the deity of Christ as a man. You understand that? What I'm trying to tell you is that this is a good practice, and John used it, is to use the issues of the day. What's the issue of the day? Technocracy, AI, transhumanism, the push for a digital new world order. These are the issues of the day. We can use those issues of the day to to uh, to bring the gospel to people directly. That's the point. And again, the little tract I had should help you with that, and I've got that reference here. So what else should we be? We should be sanctified. We should be resolute. We should be ready to, like Daniel was, right? He made up his mind ahead of time. That's what Daniel did. He made up his mind that he would not defile himself. You got to be resolute in what you're going to decide to do. And look at his his three friends, right? They said at the fiery furnace that they were convinced that God would deliver them, but they said, even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image you have set. Be resolute as a Christian in these days. Do not waver in your following the Lord Jesus Christ. Do not bow down to idols. Interestingly enough, 1 John chapter 5, verse 21, I think it's verse 20, 21, the very last verse, John writes, my dear children, do not, forgive me, do not follow idols. I'm not quoting it right. Forgive me. I should know the scripture better than that. Anyway, the point is he warns the believers of following idols. Christians, therefore, according to John, were capable of following idols. And I would encourage you to look at that verse yourself later. Be ready to suffer. This is fascinating. This is an anti-American concept here, but look at this, Hebrews 11. This is the great chapter about the hall of faith, we call it, right? But the second half of that is discouraging. Look at this. Others experienced mockings, scourgings, yes, chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, they were tempted, they were put to death with the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated, men of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains and caves and holes in the ground. All of these, having gained what? Approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised. We need to be like them if needed, right? And here's another example. Sorry, I got my 1034 here, and I didn't have the right verse connected to that. I got two of these. Here, let me just say what 1034 says. I'm not going to quote it exactly. It talks about those at that time joyfully accepting the seizure of their property. Joyfully accepting the seizure of their property. Are you an American? I'm an American, you're American. We're all about private property, capitalism, right? The Bible is about private property, but these believers joyfully accepted the seizure of their property. Are you able to do that? Am I able to do that? Question you should ask yourself, because they're intending to take your private property. Remember, by 2030, you'll own what? Nothing, right? This is what they intend to do. And it looks like they're going to have pretty much their way as things go. Timing, of course, I don't know. Do not be easily shaken. Do not join the devil in his dark works, but rather expose them. Resist the devil. Resist in the evil day. Stand firm against the schemes of the devil. Put on the full armor of God. Firstly, speaking the what? The truth, in love, of course, but the belt of truth needs to be around our waist. Do not walk in the counsel of the wicked. Pray, seek and practice boldness. And I pray about this because sometimes I'm not as bold as I should be. Additional spiritual action points are intermingled below in the physical action. Now, what do we do physically? Main principle. Here's what the main principle of all that I'm going to say is: decrease your participation in the digital slavery world. That's what you do. They need your data to control you. Interestingly enough, the more data they get from everybody, they can control, of course, the whole society. The more data they get fed, the more control they have. What does the principle in Ephesians 6 say? It says what? Resist. How do you resist? Don't participate in the data giving process. Okay? And the data giving process, the biggest data giving process that you have is your cell phone. You are giving this system all your data constantly with your cell phone. if it's a smartphone. I'm going to preempt myself, actually, right down here. I'll just say it in a minute. I'm going to talk about my own phone. So here, step one, de-Google your life. And unfortunately, that link is, I did the wrong link. Let's go to this link. De-Google your life. This is Glenn Meter of the Privacy Academy. Notice, whoops, sorry, that's the video of it. Got the wrong thing up too quickly. 5 steps to exit the surveillance state and protect yourself online. I highly recommend you watch this. The link is right there. I can send you the link. You just got to email me and ask me for it. And I'll send you this link and you can watch this whole thing. It's how to de-Google your life. All right. So that's step 1. Let's look at, okay. This includes Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, X, and all social media. So when I say de-Google, I'm talking about you got to de everything, all right? You de it all. You get rid of it all as much as you can. Now, the question is, what do I do? How do I live if I'm de-Googling and getting out of Apple and X and Amazon? Well, that's what the video helps to show you. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Yes, I'll address but what about the gospel being put out on all these platforms? I have an answer to that, but I'm not going to answer it now because of time. I want to get to the end of this. If I got time, I'm going to come back and answer that. That's a common thing I get from pastors or from religious leaders. What about the fact of using YouTube, which is a Google platform, for the gospel? I address that. I have an answer for that. Let's get an above phone or a ghost phone, okay? So these are mostly actual links. The internet here is a little bit slow. It's a little bit slow linking me. I'm not sure why it's so slow, but it is. So I apologize about that. You can see I'm having a delay when I click on these. But let me talk about, so here it comes up. Here's the above phone. There it is. Notice it's a digital ID report published. Let's see here what I want to say. We are above, since 2020, been creating friendly technology ecosystems where people are empowered and free, not surveilled and controlled. Whether it's your phone, laptop, or communications, you can use our products to change the world for the better. So these are freedom-minded tech companies, and you can see what they're advertising. All right, and their name is above. And they have a line of products that you can look at. And so let's go to the next one, the ghost phone. Now, what I have right here, while this link is coming up, I have a ghost phone. It's a regular cell phone, but it's a ghost phone, and it comes from the company I'm going to show you. And what a ghost phone is, as you can see here, it is Mark 37 is going ghost and digital privacy a myth? They address that question. People say, oh, you can't go ghost, you can't have privacy, and they address this in their text here. And so basically, what this is a de-Googled a Google Pixel phone, right? You can see it right here. And of course, you say, well, you're using a Google product. This doesn't promote Google. Actually, it takes away from Google because these phones are refurbished phones. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There are 16 billion phones, all right? The phones that are all these extra phones, they get the extra ones, the unused ones, and they take them, they pull out the Google surveillance technology that's in the phone, and then they repackage it and sell it out. And this allows for less mining in slave labor camps in Africa, child labor camps in China, of the rare earth elements that are required for brand new cell phones. All brand new cell phones, every year when they come out with a new model, they're increasing their level of surveillance on you. All right. Remember what I said is coming is the 6G technology with AI and brain computer interface is coming out with the 6G rollout by 2030 on your cell phone. So your cell phone is the biggest reason or biggest data giving instrument that's out there that they have against you. All right. And so this explains, you can read to your heart's content about, here's the but Google argument. And so it talks about all of this, which I'm not going to read now, but I want to show you it exists. It's available, and I highly recommend you look at it from mark37.com. Of course, this is a reference to the Bible, Mark chapter 3, verse 7. What does it use? It uses a graphene OS operating system. And again, I apologize about the little delay here. but it uses a graphene OS operating system, which is not the same operating system as your Android phones or your iPhones. Here's the graphene OS, private and secure mobile operating system with Android app compatibility, developed as a nonprofit open source project. And so you can read all about graphene and its privacy and security focused mobile operating system. And so, so anyway, again, I want to just make you aware of the technology and how it's moving. You can consider Afani for a SIM swap protection. And let's see if this is, yeah, America's most secure mobile service. And what this, they created Afani to decrease the potential of SIM swap scams. So a lot of people, especially people that start companies or people that are heavily involved in the tech world, they get their SIM cards stolen through a swap, and they get essentially all their money taken away. They even offer a what was it, a $5 million insurance policy with Afani. And so I would encourage you to look into Afani. Now, there is a cost to that. There's a cost to all of these things, all right? Get a Linux computer. And let me show you a hard link here so it doesn't take so much time. So here is freedomtech.com. Your computer reads everything. Essentially, your computer is spying on you. So what the Linux products do is build a wall around your identity with a privacy computer. And it is simple to take back control, ditch the spying. All I'm trying to show you is that there are solutions to exit the surveillance state if you know about them. So I would get the link that I have, and there's a hard link here from other Glenn Meter Talk of the Privacy Academy. He says your computer is spying on you. Here's how to stop it. What's the point I'm telling you? There is a way to stop it, at least at this point in history. Maybe 5 years from now, there won't be a way to stop it, but for now, there is. And he goes through this. I highly recommend you become part of the Privacy Academy. Again, there's a cost to that. I, of course, do not make any money on any of these. I'm not invested in any of these companies, but I do use them because I believe they're helpful. Learn the basic principles and rationale for don't feed the beast, okay? This is a fascinating clip I'm going to show you, and I've got about 28 minutes left. I'm going to use it every minute, but watch this. This is Aman Jabi, who was a Silicon Valley tech guy some years ago. He saw what was happening and began to expose it. He's not a Christian. He says in this link, he's not a Christian. He sounds like he's an Arab or a Muslim of some sort. I don't know. Here's the point. He recognizes that this is a beast system, just like the Christians say. So listen to this link here.
And since you brought up Yuval Harari, I think a couple of years ago in one of his talks, he was making a presentation at one of the Davos conferences, and he presented a danger formula where B times C times D equals R. So what is B is the biological knowledge, which is being gathered through, either in your jabs or through your DNA swabs, etc., or your PCR tests. C is the compute power that AI needs to, compute, do all the computations. So we have no control over the C. That's already there. It's kind of infinity. And then D is the other data being collected through our faces, through our behavior, and through various other things. And if there's enough B times C times D, then your ability to hack humans is increased.
Yes.
Right? So in order to collect data, they are putting sensors everywhere. That is why they're saying sensorize everything. That's why there are cameras everywhere, microphones everywhere, radars, LiDARs. They need as much data as possible, right? So the beast, like if you're I'm not a Christian, but I have a lot of Christian friends, and they believe in the whole, the beast system.
Yes.
But really, it is a beast system, whether you take it religiously or, practically. It's a beast system that is being unrolled. So
I was talking to a guy in Birmingham. We were buying something at a store, and this guy clearly, at least to me, I didn't interview the guy, but he didn't appear to be a Christian by any stretch based on kind of normal observations. but he got talking about the system they used to buy and purchase their stuff, and he got talking about the book of Revelation and the mark of the beast. So from a non-Christian, he was recognizing the state of the technology today is a beast system, just like Aman Jabi also recognizes that, even though he's not a Christian. Don't feed the beast. That's the concept. They need all your data. By the way, he talked about swabbing. If another pandemic comes along, don't let them stick a swab or a cotton thing up your nose or in your ear to get your biological material. It's going to be used, the DNA will be sold, and it will be part of the system building the transhumanist state. All right, don't let that happen. I mean, I'm highly suggesting you don't let that happen if you can help it at least. Avoid Gmail, huge one. Gmail is Google Mail. Avoid Gmail. There's other options that are much more secure. Avoid YouTube. YouTube is Google, all right? There are substitutes. If you've got a phone, NewPipe is the substitute. I have it on my Ghost phone right here. And that is an example of something where you can watch the YouTube content without the Google Analytics paying attention to everything that you do. So here is an example. Here, NewPipe, lightweight YouTube experience for Android. All right, so I have it on my phone, and you get the idea. All right, there's other applications out there, but NewPipe is one. FreeTube is what we used to use at home. Let me quickly address the FreeTube issue. FreeTube was the same thing. It was a YouTube substitute. However, there has been a problem with FreeTube. And I was reading about this, and here's one response I thought was very helpful. FreeTube issue handling. Look at this now. Okay. For clarification on what's happening. So here's the deal. We've been using FreeTube at our house, but it's not working lately. And usually it doesn't work. Then they fix it and it works again because YouTube's always trying to get around it. Well, it doesn't work for a long time now. And FreeTube might be, as this guy says, it might be nuked, he says. All right. For clarification on what is happening, YouTube now has embedded bot verification systems into their videos. So if you use a VPN or an alternative video services that relies on YouTube, it will flag it. And then it blocks users from watching the video. I.e., because the only way you can verify you are a human is if you use YouTube's websites and trip their AI system, so you are more likely to be forced to give ID one way or another, as the AI is slowly updated on what is and is not acceptable. What I'm trying to get at here is YouTube is pushing into the technology that I've suggested, and they're requiring identification. If you can't give the identification, you can't use it. And so kind of the idea is no shirt, no shoes, no service. Only today, it's no biometric ID verification, no service. On or for eventually any and everything. This shows the depth of the surveillance state, which is moving toward a zero trust architecture. Zero trust architecture, by the way, before I forget anything else, I got to quickly do something because I realize one of my videos are running slowly. It's because I've got my VPN on. I didn't take it off because I wasn't connected. Let's disconnect. There we go. My video should work better now. Sorry about that. So back to the squeeze out and the zero trust. What is this zero trust? This is the National Institute of Science. Thank you, Science Technology. Thank you. This is official government group. Here's their zero trust architecture. All resource authentication and authorization are dynamic and strictly enforced before access is allowed. Think of access to the internet now. And this yellow statement comes from right there. Continual monitoring with possible re-authentication and reauthorization occurs throughout the user transaction. In other words, if the system cannot authenticate who you are, you can't use it. How does that work? Zero trust authentication. Zero trust authentication takes place through, guess what? Biometric matches via a live biometric to the one captured at enrollment. In other words, you have to give it your biometric information, and then it has to verify constantly while it's being used that biometric identity in order for use to continue. Here's the point. You don't give it the biometric identification, you can't use it. You're excluded from society and functioning with the economy because you can't do it because it won't let you. This is what zero trust authentication is. It's all consistent with, there's your digital twin, there's your sustainable communication. Why do they call it sustainable? This is Agenda 2030. This is the global narrative, bring the population down to under 1 billion. Zero trust authentication takes place through biometric matches via a live biometric to the one captured at enrollment. Ultimately, the user becomes the authenticator, eliminating passwords and user stores to minimize threats. Always about peace and safety, minimizing threats, convenience, no more passwords. That's how they sell this. But it's a biometric system that is a surveillance, total surveillance state. Notice it's sustainable. It's full of AI. It covers everything, and they always sell it as secure. All right. AI native sustainable communication, future-proof sustainable user experience. When they are saying peace and safety, then destruction will come upon them suddenly. That's what Paul wrote in 1 Thessalonians 5. Okay, back to where I was. We're still talking about what do we do about it all. So as we look for substitutes for YouTube and for Gmail, this is useful on your phones. Right now, FreeTube is not useful on the computer because of the squeeze out problem that I'm sharing with you, and I expect this squeeze out to happen more and more and more, which becomes a problem. Oh, remember what, I think I forgot one thing on this. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Yeah. Here's what Jesus said. I'm not quoting here. I'm close to quoting, but I'm not. Matthew 24:22. You can see that this mindset, as this mindset ramps up, how it will contribute to the state of world that Jesus said would come. Unless those days be cut short, no flesh would survive. In fact, in Revelation 13, it says, who could make war against the beast? It's not possible because there's literally every bit of control is out there. And if you make war, you can die, especially through your digital twin, very quickly. Okay, so let's keep going. Avoid everything 5G. Okay, I want to point out that LTE is a 4G format. Listen to this. China isn't the only problem with 5G. The network has plenty of other security weaknesses, including ones, look at this, the United States doesn't want to fix since they help its own surveillance efforts. But keeping the untrusted companies like Huawei out of the Western infrastructure isn't enough. Neither is banning Chinese microchips, software, or programmer security vulnerabilities in the standards, the protocols, and software for 5G ensure that vulnerabilities will remain. You got that? Security actually ensures that vulnerabilities will remain, regardless of who provides the hardware and the software. These insecurities are a result of market forces that prioritize costs over security and of governments, including the United States, that want to preserve the option of what? Surveillance in the 5G networks. All right. So I recommend people not in the 5G network. You can still get a 4G phone and have 4G service, at least today. I have it on my own phone. Avoid Siri, Cortana, and other smart communications. Avoid video ring doorbells. The smart doorbell, the ring doorbells that everybody has in the neighborhoods, they're tracking you, and they connect with the ring doorbells across the street and down the street and with your smartphone and your smart meters in your home and everyone's devices walking down the road. And Amazon creates what's called an Amazon mesh network, and it literally covers the neighborhood with the smart technology where it tracks everyone everywhere doing everything. That's what it does. So the ring doorbells are not a good thing. Avoid smart meters also. I already showed you that video. I'm going to pass it right now. Avoid the smart light bulbs. Your smart bulbs record 78% of conversations even when you think they're off. Okay, so here it is. This isn't science fiction paranoia. It's the reality of modern Internet of Things devices that embed sophisticated surveillance capabilities while masquerading as innocent household items. That's the world we live in today, all right? Avoid them. Avoid smart appliances, all right? The case for dumb. I like There we go. Smart appliances promise convenience and innovation, but is your privacy worth the price? The answer, in my opinion, is no. The case for dumb, it's just the same link here. The case for buying dumb appliances. All right. And so simply put, I'm not the only person advocating this. There's a lot of non-Christians out there too that recognize this is a problem, and they're advocating dumb appliances. So the dumber your situation is, the better. Get mic locks and camera blockers. Now, unfortunately, I left my mic lock at home, but I have a mic lock for this computer. Oh, and by the way, I was telling someone earlier, this computer is not a Linux computer. I want it to be, but it's a cost factor. Why do I bring the cost factor up? When you start moving to the privacy world, it costs money. You have to buy stuff. You just have to. You got to buy the hardware, and you got to buy the plans that go with it. And you can't do it all at once. So I'm saying that to you. It's easy to be overwhelmed when you're trying to go private because everything costs, and all the stuff that you already bought and paid money for, you got to ditch it and buy something else. You understand? So it's a process. Don't beat yourself up for not being able to do it the first day. Get the phone, then get the computer. I also didn't get the privacy computer before this presentation because for years I'm making these presentations. Literally, it takes me years to make these presentations. When I say years, the data and the connections I have, it takes years to put together. When I finally put it together, I've linked it all to this computer, and I couldn't do this presentation by changing my computer a month before the presentation, because it would have messed it all up. So as soon as this presentation is done, and one in Illinois next week, I plan to get my own Linux private computer. But anyway, there are mic locks for these computers. You stick them in the side, and it blocks all ability for the computer to listen, or your phone. And so you can buy mic locks. They just look like this. They're little things that plug in. You can also have camera blockers. And if you look on top of my computer, I got my camera blocked with just a physical device, a little clip that goes right over the camera. Now you can say, are there other cameras? Possibly there are. I do the best I can with what I have. That's why I'm moving to a secure computer when I get the financial ability to do so. So get a camera hidden device detector. My kids bought me one of these, and page not found. Well, anyway, they have these hidden camera detectors. I forgot to bring it in my rush to get everything packed up here. I never got it, but you can move it around the room and you can detect hidden cameras with it. It's fascinating. My whole point is there are ways to combat the surveillance. You just have to be aware of them. You got to be willing to start working with these things. Basically, avoid rewards programs at stores. Why is that? What are they doing? They're just tracking all your data. That's what they're doing. And they predict what you're going to buy, et cetera, et cetera. And that data is sold, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is hard to ditch the rewards programs because reward saves you what? It saves you money. So no one wants to ditch the reward programs, all right? I want to remind you, how are we supposed to live as Christians in the world? As strangers and aliens, correct? All right? We are not, we're in the world, but we're not of it. Now, that's just my recommendation. Obviously you don't have to do anything I say, right? It's a recommendation. Basically, seek a dumb home, a dumb auto, and communication system as much as possible. Example, your car is spying on you. Let's quickly look at this Corbett report at minute 13:30. It's a very short clip. That's right. All right, what happened to my sound? Thank you.
Good reason for that. So let's connect those dots. Remember back in July of 2020 when Hipstergates, newsflash for anyone who has not updated to the 21st century, yes, cars are spying on everything you do, and I hope people will take a look at that Gizmodo article that goes through it in some detail. Key quote here, Mozilla found brands including BMW, Ford, Toyota, Tesla, and Subaru collect data about drivers, including race, facial expressions, weight, health information, and where you drive, of course. Some of the cars tested collected data you wouldn't expect your car to know about, including details about sexual activity, race, and immigration status according to Mozilla. So yeah, your car is a spy device now, and it is spying on absolutely every aspect of you and your personal life.
Okay. Now, why do I bring this up in his solutions? He actually, James Corbett, has a section of his program called Solutions Watch. And so he has a solutions for the car problem. My solution for the car problem is buy or maintain the older vehicles as much as possible. Don't buy the new stuff. It's nice to have the new stuff, but it's just a surveillance tool, to the point where there are some cars that actually look at your eye, the iris of the pupil of your eye, and it tracks your pupils. And when your pupils go off the road for any length of time, a warning sounds, and it tells you to look back at the road. All right. So this is the way your car is managing you. And of course, all of the electric cars manage you. I don't have time to go into the electric cars, but it's quite amazing. Learn the basic principles or rationale for personal privacy, freedom, constitutional assaults by attack, Second Amendment assaults by attack, all enemies, both foreign and domestic. What do I mean by Second Amendment assaults by technology? They want, as I've already told you, you to own nothing, and that's what they want. They want to kill most of us. That's what they want. It doesn't matter if you have a gun. It doesn't matter if you have your Second Amendment rights. They're going to find a way to get you anyway. That's their goal, all right? They are building the system. You won't be able to buy anything. You won't be able to get bullets. You won't be able to get food. You won't be able to have water. You won't be able to have electricity if you're not in this system. So they have understand what's going on and what they're doing. All right. Even if you might disagree with me on my prophecy and my eschatology, you can just see what's happening. It's happening. Even if you disagree with me on my biblical analysis or my hermeneutics, you can see it. Even like Aman Jabi, I just showed you, could see the beast system being set up, even though he's not a Christian. It's there. It's happening. Familiarize yourself. Oh, join the Privacy Academy, all right, which I've already showed you a couple of Glenn Meter's talks. Familiarize yourself with the freedom-based tech world. Other companies who are addressing the issue head on. Freedomtech.com, Liberation Tech. So liberationtech.com is a company I learned about through Mark 3.7. Ditch Microsoft and Google today, all right? And so this is the web development, liberate your digital world. So they're freedom-minded technology companies. And so my website, which is this one right here, I have just switched to being hosted through liberationtech.com. And my Understanding the Great Reset talk that I first gave here 3 years ago is all right here in terms of the content of whatnot. My point is simply that there are freedom-based website tech companies out there. So Liberation Tech. So here's the book that I have. I have a book out there. You can buy it $12 for sale, or you go to my website and read it for free. You can see it's right here. It's on a business card I have out there. I'm only saying that because if you forget, just grab a business card on the way out, and it's on there. It's equippingteachers.net. It used to be equippingteachers.org, but I switched to equippingteachers.net because I transitioned to a freedom-based tech hosting company instead of a cloud-based, Google-based system. All right, nothing in this fallen world is perfect. There is a range of extremes. So here's the concept, people. We can take the Amish model and go all the way to the other side where people say, oh, they got all my data anyways and don't do a thing. You got it? There are people who won't do a thing, and there are people who will go and be an Amish person. I know people who have done this sort of thing. I'm not on either extreme. I'm certainly not over here, but I'm not over here either. I would advance that we can use technology, just like Andy Wood said. I'm not anti-technology. All right. I'm using technology right now, just like he said. I'm not anti-technology, but we can see where the technology is taking us. And so we have to try to find ways to live in the world, but not be of the world in regards to this technology. All right. That's all I'm saying. Work the opposite direction. Work toward being tech free, so to speak. But I realize, I run my business of mowing grass from my cell phone. I don't like that. I wish I didn't have to do it, but that's the way the world works today. If I don't text my customers the day before I mow them, they don't pay me. That's just the way it works. If I'm going to make any money, I got to have this. But I've chosen to go with a ghost phone instead of a Google phone or an Android or an iPhone or, and it's been de-Googled. So again, work with things the best way that you can. Get out of the Real ID system. Get out of the Real ID system. All right. Real ID was put in place by President Trump in his first administration. Refused the national ID card. All right. What is the national ID card? Well, it's unconstitutional system that is going to go eventually to the Chinese social credit system with a global biometric ID. All right. And so it's called in other places the star ID. See the star? Get rid of it and get a regular driver's license. Now, there are 5 states in the nation that don't allow people to get rid of it. Georgia is one of them. But in Alabama, I had a star ID and I went in and traded it for a standard ID. Okay, you can do that. And just in case you're wondering, this is a Christian website I'm on here. Look at what this is the Ron Paul Institute. Real ID, phony security, real authorization. All right, now what about flying? That's always the question. If you go to the website and you look at what it is, you don't need it to fly. All right, they say you do. Don't buy the lie. You can still fly without real ID. Number one, getting a passport, which costs money, is a way. As long as you have a second way to identify yourself besides a driver's license, they'll let you fly. All right, the real ID doesn't prevent you from flying. Even if you've lost your passport, etc., or don't have one, at this point in time, you can still fly. And I have evidence of that from personal experience in my own inner relations with people. Okay, I don't have time because I'm running out of time. Prepare for the outlawing of gold and silver, but don't throw them away. I'm not saying to throw your gold and silver away, but don't you remember the point in history when they did outlaw and they confiscated gold? I don't remember that in history. Prepare at this point means consider what you might do. I'm telling you, have a plan. When the gold isn't allowed anymore because you have to buy things digitally, have a plan. There are people that have plans. They actually have a gold credit card that you buy stuff with a credit card that's attached to gold. That's fascinating. I don't have time to deal with it right now, but have a plan. All right, work at being able to function once excluded from the economy, because that's coming. It's coming. I mean, it's coming. Whether you even are a Christian or not, I could make the case dogmatically that this is coming. All right, be prepping. Notes on prepping. Okay, you can go from the Mormons to the pre-tribulational fatalistic complacency model, which I've already talked about. Prepping does not mean prep for the tribulation time. I'm not talking about that. But based on 2 Peter 3:9 and the Chinese social credit system already in place, what is 2 Peter 3:9? This is the idea that the Lord is not slow about his promise. He's patient, not wishing for any to perish, but all to come to repentance. What I'm getting at here is that because the Lord is slow and he's patient, it seems like he's slow to us. He's not slow, but it seems like he's slow to us for coming. We want the Lord to come, but it's slow. Why is he slow? Is because he's patient, not wanting any to perish. Christians are the ones propagating the gospel of salvation to people who are going to die if they don't get it. And so if they're not saved. And so the point is, the Lord's going to leave us here as long as possible, in my view, simply because of that. Prepping, motivation is key. And I'm running out of time, so I'm almost done. Pray to honor God in both life and death. All right, that's important. And I'm not going to show this clip because I've only got a minute left. This is literally the end. This is the end of my thing, but I'm going to talk about it. This clip, raise your hand if you're familiar with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe from C.S. Lewis. This clip is the last battle scene, or the battle scene in the first movie, not the last battle, meaning the 6th book, but the first movie, last battle. And you got King Peter standing there next to the centaur, and the army of the evils over here, and the army of Aslan is over here, and they're about to go at it, right? And what does King Peter say to the centaur? He looks over at him and says, "Are you with me?" And then the centaur looks at King Peter, and says, "To the death." And then of course they go at it. And so this is the idea. Are you with me? All right, to the death. Yes, our answer should be to the death. Meaning, are we with the Lord? The answer is yes, to the death. We are with him. Whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. I hope I've given you enough information about how to prepare. There's more. I could go into in depth in any of these things for an extended length of time, which I don't have, but please come up and ask me questions. I'm officially done. I want to thank you for coming and staying such a long time. And please get my business card, whatever you can get on the table out there. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I want to thank Bill again and the Almost Colleges Privacy Academy, American Decency Association, and Chris for being back there with the technology. Thank you for all your help and hosting me. So thank you very much.